Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and good evening to you. Welcome aboard HMS Sensible. We're going to be riding the high seas of current affairs and fishing out some facts amid the dark storms of disinformation. I'm Alex Phillips and this is Drive here on Talk, the home of common sense. And if you would like to throw in your two-bit at any time, ahoy there, this is the number for you. 03444 99 1000. You can call that at any point. The wonderful Jodie is there to take your call and vet you and make sure that you don't have to walk the plank. And if we deem you okay to be part of the crew, you'll be patched through to the studio. It's your normal network rate, so it won't cost you any more than your normal bill. 87222 is the number if you'd like to send a text message. If you're going to do that, you've got to write the word talk before you write your message. That way it doesn't end up in the wrong studios. The Virgin lot, they don't want to hear it. They're a bit woke over there. They certainly don't want to know what you've got to say. And that lot, they only care about balls. I mean, like round ones or funny shaped ones. I mean, sport ones. OK, you can also send me a WhatsApp message, 0344499 1000, and leave me a voice note on WhatsApp if you'd rather do that. Everyone knows who listens regularly how much I love a voiceo. So crack on, OK? Right, let us kick off with our top stories of the day. And I'm pleased to say we're in brilliant company because we've got former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons and the former Conservative MP for the Ribble Valley, Mr Nigel Evans. Hi, Nigel.
Alex, how are you doing?
I'm OK. All the better for seeing you, my darling. Now, I don't suppose you had the fire on last night, your socks on, a nice sort of brandy warming up in the palm of your mitt, and you were watching Question Time.
Do you know, I haven't watched Question Time for it must be a decade. I find it completely tedious, mostly one-sided, and well past its sell-by dates. But I'm clearly abreast of, thanks because of other independent outlets, I'm able to glean the story that you're just about to tell your viewers.
Right, exactly. Because I didn't watch Question Time because, frankly, I've got better things to do with my life, i.e. live it. But I did watch lots of clips when I was on the way home quite late last night. And remarkably, I watched the bit with the asylum seekers planted in the audience. Well, planted. They were invited to come on. And what is so astonishing is the one guy sitting there, they go like, all right, you know, matey-o, explain where you're from. Oh, yes, I'm from Iran. And what do you think about what the politicians have to say? And he gets out his phone, he starts reading stuff about the ECHR and the Northern Ireland Protocol. And I'm like, mate, you did not write that yourself. And then there's sort of photos circulating. And it looks like he's got an earpiece in. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, no, it's... Kemi Badenoch has, within the last few minutes, come out and condemned it as well. She said that she believed Question Time was an opportunity for Brits to question their politicians, not to invite people who were asylum seekers to come in and lobby on behalf of themselves or anybody else, quite frankly. I mean, I thought it was an underhand trick. And I'm really pleased that, I mean, I saw Azir Joseph's response when Fiona Bruce asked him, basically, you know, trying to set one up against the other and say, you know, this is a human being and shouldn't you feel sympathetic, etc., etc. And when he said, well, actually, if you're an illegal asylum seeker in the United Kingdom, you will be deported. And absolutely, that should be the policy. Right. And the BBC, really, they're under attack because of what people suspect is an inherent, institutionalized left-wing bias, right? It's something that I believe the BBC has. It's a view that I've had for quite some time. I pay my TV license through gritted teeth because it is the law. But quite frankly, I don't watch it because simply I would rather, as you say, live my life, watch other channels out there like Talk or read newspapers to get my information. And I certainly don't want to watch a programme that is pushing a particular ideology in the way that they are, and they pretend to be neutral, the most trusted news gathering organisation. Well, you're not going to be trusted if you infiltrate one of your audiences with asylum seekers. I'm sorry, it just doesn't wash with me.
Asylum seekers with probable earpieces. Let's have a little look, shall we, at said asylum seeker last night on Question Time.
So the man in the white shirt, now I know you came over on a small boat. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
What's your response to what you're hearing? Because obviously everyone is talking about people like you.
Well, let me say something first. I just want to clear that leaving the convention doesn't just affect the migrants. It would give ordinary people one less court, to protect their rights. Even for weekend checks and the government power, risk on peace settlement in Northern Ireland and damage our security cooperation. Do you think this
I'll
is
happily answer that question. My parents came here legally. They did not come here illegally. And look, there's a clear dividing line in British politics. If you're watching this at home and you want to vote for a party that will prioritise the interests of foreign nationals who came here illegally, or do you want to vote for a party that are going to prioritise British citizens who work hard, set their alarm clocks in the evening before going to bed and toil to pay tax money?
That is not the dividing line. That is not the dividing line in British politics right now.
Do you know how much money the British
taxpayer had to pay? There are other choices available.
Do you know how much money the British taxpayers had to pay for universal credit payments alone for foreign nationals last year? That was £10 billion.
Do you know how much an asylum seeker gets a week?
Hang on, if you're talking no one can hear.
£49 a week. £49 a week. This is what this man wants to take off you.
29, British taxpayers will be spending half the forecast defence budget on universal credit alone for foreign nationals. There's nothing about that that's remotely acceptable, and I'm sorry, we will stick up for British citizens who pay their taxes.
I mean, seriously, the silent majority, Daisy, yeah, the silent majority probably agree with Zia Yusuf. But what I find staggering is there he is with his lines about the Northern Ireland Protocol, which clearly he knows nothing about, OK? He's reading that stuff. And then, sort of, you know, Fiona Bruce sort of says, oh, tell us about you. And he's like, well, I don't want to go home now because I've got a daughter and she's going to be learning to speak English and she doesn't know how to speak Farsi. I'm like, what? So you come over, you don't know if you can stay here, and the first thing you think is, I'm going to have children. Why? Why have you chosen to have children? I'll tell you why. It's because you think that's the best device to make sure you can stay here. And if you're worried about your daughter not being able to speak Farsi, well, why don't you teach her? I mean, I just felt the guy wasn't challenged. He was sort of beatified. He was sort of like a Stakhanovite, you know, a statue of the great migrants. You know, this poor Iranian man. Look how articulate he is. Look at him being able to tell us all about it. It's about our human rights too. Bog off.
Well, you couldn't contest him or challenge him, Alex, because he had all his little notes on his mobile phone. And the other thing, of course, which came out was that this chap had passed through 6 countries where he had been denied asylum. Now, the last country I assume that he passed through was France. We all have our own views about France, but it's not a country that denies people their human rights. It's not at war with anybody, and it's a very safe country. I go there 3-4 times a year. I love France, right? So what is it that then propelled him to get on a small boat to come to the United Kingdom? Clearly, his desire to get on Question Time on the BBC. That's what he must have been dreaming about for decades, and he's at last fulfilled. He's ticked something on his bucket list.
And he's got the brilliant, you know, very handy collateral of now having a child. Well done, because that wasn't cynical at all. Yeah, never heard of contraception, have you?
I know, but yeah, and you didn't get Fiona Bruce saying to him or to any of the others, basically, this is costing the British taxpayer 10 billion. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah.
It's all right for her to ask sympathetic questions of an asylum seeker, and yet where's our voice for the British taxpayer? You know, at least Zia Joseph did speak up, and I think he put it absolutely right. 10 billion. We've just had a budget that, apart from littering money towards Benefits Street, is going to be a lot of it's going to be directed towards these people coming on small boats and are going to have to be looked after by the British taxpayer.
Think about it. If we weren't paying that 10 billion on randos breaking into the country, a quarter of that would be able to sort out the judicial system tomorrow. Backlog gone. You could throw as much money as you liked at the NHS, always whining they don't have enough. I mean, it's just crazy. It's absolutely destructive. But do you know what? I have, I think, a good antenna for things that are a setup. Having been in politics a good old time, and you've been in, no offence, longer than I have, no doubt, but there's something funny about the over-promotion of Zach Polanski. I don't buy into this, he's suddenly really popular. Oh, the audiences love him. I'm sorry, the Green Party has been around since time immemorial. Caroline Lucas was occasionally chucked on TV, as was Natalie Bennett. I cannot turn on a channel or open a paper or log into my mobile phone without seeing that snaggle-toothed socialist. And I'm like, where's he come from? Who's created him? Why no scrutiny to the fact he's changed his name 3 times? He was a Liberal Democrat and a rubbish one at that a few seconds ago. He used to hypnotise women saying, I can increase your boobs. It is weird. And I think he is being deliberately, cynically pushed and promoted in order that as Labour's hemorrhaging to the left, which was always going to happen because they have to make some semi-non-extreme socialist decisions if they're even going to keep the IMF from our doorstep, it was always going to happen that they would hemorrhage to the left. And I kind of feel that people are deliberately making the Green Party what they want to pretend is a respectable repository. So in future elections, they can create some sort of anti-reform coalition. But he was piping up last night, wasn't he? And I think the mask slipped. Have a watch.
Most people in this audience and watching this at home will have had an experience of a care worker. 1 in 5 care workers are foreign nationals. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't particularly want to wipe someone's bum. And I'm very grateful for the people who do this work, this really important work, whether it's in the care sector, whether it's in the NHS.
It seems to me, I mean, he does say 1 in 5 are from foreign nationals, which means 4 in 5 are British people. But it's sort of suggested to me there's an inbuilt snobbery of, well, you native Brits don't do those jobs. That's why we got to bring the foreigners in. I wouldn't wipe anyone's backside. It's like, oh, right, Mr. Morality. I think he rather revealed himself there.
Yeah, well, after the next election, don't forget, I don't know whether it'll be the Labour Party licking his backside or the other way around. I mean, sorry to extend that analogy a little bit, but I don't know if you've seen the latest opinion polls, Alex, right? The Reform are on 31, the Tories are on 20, the Greens are on 18, which does indicate something's going on there, and the Labour Party are on 14%, apart from begging the question as to where is this 14% coming from, that they are still wanting to support the Labour Party, as wretched as they are. But the reality is, you're quite right, there does seem to be, I know he's more charismatic than a lot of others within the party, but I do think that there's a service ought to be done to actually analyse, drill down deep on the policies of the Green Party, because they're as fruitcake as you'll ever find them.
Well, let's also drill down deep into their deputy leader, who's got some pretty choice views when it comes to Hamas et al. I'd love to. I can't wait for when the Green Party, you know, have their parade for Pride, and you've got a whole load of people going Allahu Akbar in chaps being led along like, you know, dogs or something. Anyway, let's talk.
It's as ridiculous as my favourite one, which is gays for Gaza, gays for Palestine, and I think, excuse me, you are joking. You know, the gays wouldn't last 2 minutes in these areas.
Oh, it's utterly extraordinary. I think they'd probably do okay in Afghanistan, though. That's my sense. But let's talk about this. I mean, this is, like you were saying about the Labour Party are going to have to do some right-wing things if they want to at least keep the IMF from our door and actually prevent more rioting on the streets of Britain. And so they've decided that there could potentially be a scheme where illegal migrants are deported to North Macedonia, a bit like Italy's plan with Albania. Now, they said, oh, Rwanda won't work, it's a gimmick. Because basically the whole issue was around refoulement, this idea that people were going to be in Rwanda as a holding zone while they were being processed. But this is if we say no, and then we sort of send them to Macedonia to, I don't know, fester before they go home. But I'd love to see how this lands with the backbenchers of the Labour Party.
Yeah, well, the reality as well is, I mean, my view has always been, Alex, that if you enter the United Kingdom illegally, particularly using the small boat method, then you should be guilty of a crime immediately, and then you should be deported. Now, whatever this third country happens to be, whether it's North Macedonia, Rwanda, or wherever, the reality is that Donald Trump has taken up this idea that Rishi Sunak failed to enact by sending anybody to Rwanda. If only he had done that, he might still have been Prime Minister. I still might have been a Member of Parliament, who knows? But at least we would have been doing something about the problem that is costing us over £10 billion a year. So, yeah, quite frankly, the first thing that Starmer did when he became Prime Minister was to junk the Rwanda policy. Well, why did he do that when so many millions of pounds had been spent in a negotiation with Rwanda? And that, to me, sounds like a really sensible policy. But the big difference between certainly what Kemi Badenoch wants to see happen and what Keir is suggesting is that when somebody does enter the United Kingdom illegally, they won't be deported until they're properly processed in the United Kingdom. Now, how long is that going to take?
Oh, we all know that it takes 1,000 years and then people keep getting to challenge it until they get to stay anyway.
Yeah, I mean, how many civil servants working from home are going to be able to process these things? I mean, they can't get a grip of the court system so much that Lammy is talking about getting rid of the jury system for a lot of cases. I think that is absolutely bonkers and totally contrary to natural justice set out in Magna Carta. I think it's absolutely appalling. Yeah. So if they can't sort out that, how do they think that they're going to possibly process these illegal immigrants who are coming in increasing numbers into the United Kingdom via small boats?
Oh, they don't. They want to basically just wave them all in and say you get to stay here now, because at least it sort of seems to massage the figures. Now, this is a extraordinary story. We first heard that the White House had asked its US diplomats to basically snitch on Britain, to report back what was going on in terms of freedom of speech and migration. Well, now we have seen the US security strategy. It's a big old document, but one of the key issues in there, US National Security Strategy 2025, 33 pages of it, is all about Europe. It's talking about the economic decline, but it's also talking about transnational bodies undermining political liberty and sovereignty, migration policies transforming the continent, censorship of free speech, suppression of political opposition, cratering birth rate, loss of national identities. It's incredible that we're now in a situation where America's foreign policy is, we got to save Europe.
Well, apparently European diplomats are already gasping at the effrontery of the president to really involve himself in the politics of other countries. What they tend to forget is that, if you remember, the Moldovan elections took place not so long ago. Oh, my goodness me, didn't they issue the statement about how delighted they were that a pro-European party had actually won that election. And go back to the Brexit time, Alex, as you will remember well. David Cameron got his mate Barack Obama to warn the United Kingdom that we'd be at the end of any trade deal if we dared to vote the way that we then went on to vote. I mean, people in the United Kingdom. Well, go back to the last election when Downing Street were trying to get 100 people to go out and campaign for Kamala. So they can criticise Donald Trump for having this particular opinion, but I think actually he's got a point. It's
not an opinion, it is facts. When you've got 12,500 people arrested in 1 year for social media posts, when you do deliberately have, I mean, you can see what's going on with the AfD in Germany, who have been banned from standing in certain mayoral elections now. The French snap election to try and create an anti-Rassemblement bloc vote. I mean, all of this stuff is true.
And Alex, and we're cancelling mayoral elections in the United Kingdom.
And on top of all of this, I've got to actually let you go, but there's so much I want to talk to you about, so we'll just throw two extra things in the mix for a very quick response from you. First of all, adding to all of this is the fact that the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, has turned around and said we got reverse Brexit. Well, it was only a matter of time before that happened. I get the impression the only thing standing between Britain and going back into the EU is Morgan McSween, and I don't think his tenure in Downing Street is going to last long. And now we know that the EU are going to fine X because it's the only social media platform that refused the EU's demands to censor stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to be very, very careful, the European Union. I mean, Calamity Lamity, let's deal with him first, shall we?
Yeah.
The Labour Party really did get hammered in the 2019 general election. I got a ton of friends who voted Remain, but even they could see that a referendum had taken place. The people in Britain had decided to vote to leave the European Union, and that's what we had to do. I actually think it's a threat to democracy when you get people like him, Keir Starmer, and others who said initially they tried to stymie it in the House of Commons. One of the most frustrating times of my life was to watch 21 Tories coalesce with the Labour Party and basically ground Brexit into the dust. And it was only the early general election with Boris coming in with a promise to get Brexit done that actually did get it done. Now, it also begs the other question. He is Deputy Prime Minister, isn't he? He did stand on the manifesto that said that should they be elected, that they would not go anywhere near rejoining the single market or the customs union. That was the policy. Now, should they actually go down that route? It's another broken promise. It's another lie.
It's not just that. It is a slap in the face for actual democracy. It's saying to the British people, we don't care. We're not going to listen. You don't matter. Yeah. We know best.
Yeah. And I'm sorry the European Union, don't like some of the things that people say on Twitter, but I'm a real champion of freedom of speech, and I'm concerned by the number of people who've had a knock on the door because they've tweeted something that somebody else chooses to be offended by. I'd
rather get the Rozzers knock on my door. In fact, I'd wear it as a badge of honour than put something up and find it hasn't been allowed to be put up because I don't know, it's voicing a political opinion. But I have a feeling Musk's patience is wearing thin. And €120 million fine, that's coins down the back of the sofa to Elon. He ain't gonna care. Nigel, before I let you go, are you ready to start wearing masks again? Because apparently the health advice with the flunami that's going to hit Britain is get the mask back out your drawer.
Yeah, well, it's a shame that we just had that useless £200 million COVID inquiry report, which really didn't get to grips with what we should do should something like this come again. And the reality is, as we saw, is that you look after the vulnerable and everybody else get on with it. And I found one of the most frustrating things was having to wear the mask everywhere. I can look after myself and I'll look after other people. I'll take precautions as much as I possibly can. But going down the route of getting a so-called expert telling us all to mask up again fills me with absolute dread.
Yeah, it ain't going to happen for me either. No way. I didn't do it during COVID. I ain't starting now. Nigel, thank you ever so much. The brilliant Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. Politics misses him. I wonder if he'll make a return. OK, we're going to take a short break now. Keep your thoughts coming in. Lots of messages already landing in the system. 03444991000 is the number if you want to make a phone call to speak to me a bit later, or if you want to drop a WhatsApp into the pot or leave me a voice note. I love a voiceo. You know I do. 87222 is the number if you'd like to text me. You've got to write the word talk before you text. I'm taking a tiny little incy-wincy break, but I'm going to be right back, so don't you go anywhere.
the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do you know, in the break there, I was munching away on my sleep, and I was just looking at X, and I've just seen I've just seen a post by someone called Zara Hussein. I don't know who she is. She's a Muslim mother who claimed asylum in the UK. And she says she's got a problem with Islamophobia and the far right. And she's put a well-known British supermarket placed pork next to halal foods after complaints they've changed it, as showed in the second image. We have no problem with British supermarkets selling pork. Oh, that's nice, asylum seeker. But it must be placed away from halal foods. Well, I'll tell you what, Zara Hussein, and I've told you just as much on X, I have a problem with supermarkets selling halal meat. I have a problem with supermarkets selling meat that hasn't been pre-stunned before slaughter anywhere near our high animal welfare products. Do you know what I think? I've got an idea. I think halal meat needs to be placed somewhere very different from where our own good high animal welfare standards British meat is. And I'm going to suggest that perhaps it might be best kept in one of 53 Islamic countries. How dare these people? Asylum seekers. Can you imagine me going to, like, Morocco? I'd visit Morocco a lot and be like, now, listen here, Morocco, give me money because I'm an asylum seeker, pay for me, and I've got a problem with the fact that you're not selling bacon sandwiches. I think you need to start Aunt Bessie's Griddle and Grill. Oh, where's the pulled pork? I got a bit used to that. In fact, why don't you open a few boozers and make sure it's laden with pork scratchings? Whoever that Zara Hussein is, how dare you? Blimmin' heck, that just triggered me right, didn't it? Anyway, sorry, that's not what I was supposed to be talking about, but hey, you see, you gotta say. Let's speak now to Andy Peston, who is a political commentator, former independent mayor of Middlesbrough. Hi there, Andy.
Hi, Alex. Hi.
I wasn't supposed to be talking about that, so unless you want to say something on it, we can just move swiftly away from it. But I do find the arrogance, an asylum seeker demanding that the halal meat in supermarkets shouldn't be next to the pork. Excuse me? You're a guest in this country.
It's crazy. I mean, it's so crazy, Alex. I wondered, is it actually a real account? Is it somebody trying to wind people up? Because it's so crazy.
I think it's an absolutely real account, and she's put little photos up showing pork next to halal, and after moaning about it, the supermarket has kowtowed to her demands. I'm sorry. It's about time. Schools, supermarkets, high streets, whatever, just said, I'm sorry, this is Britain, my love. Did you not notice when you broke into the country? Have you not seen the currency that your gyro's paid in? You know, that the British people are paying for you? Really? You're not noticed? Anyway.
Alex, calm down.
I've got to, my love. Things like that tick me off more than anything. Although I could probably work up a lather as well on David Lammy saying that, you know, that lovely, big, famous, historic vote for our sovereignty, the vote against global socialism that was supposed to be a huge sort of volte-face in the direction of our politics. Well, David Lammy seems to think that that's OK, doesn't matter, the Brits were wrong, and perhaps we should go back into the customs union. Really? Because, Mr. Lammy, considering you're a bit of a doofus who doesn't seem to follow the news agenda very closely, first of all, your manifesto said you expressly weren't going to do that. But also, you do realise one of our biggest trading partners is America, and he has not put big tariffs up against Britain because he likes us. You want to get back into that customs union? Oh, all hell is going to rain down on you in tariff land. Trump is not going to care for that.
Well, Alex, I mean, I just looked at the Telegraph, and there are over 5,000 comments under this, and you can imagine that almost all of them are hugely against what Lammy's suggesting. But can I suggest that this is the way that politics is heading? What we're heading to is in a different format, but a classic old-fashioned left versus right. And the parties on the left, interestingly, if you add them up, Labour, Lib Dem, Greens, SNP and some independents, they add up to about 50% of the voting public, and the parties on the right, obviously about 50%. And I think we're heading to an epic battle of left versus right, and Brexit, the customs union, rejoining is going to be one of those things that absolutely continues to divide politics, people and communities. So I'm not surprised to see this being pushed out there by Lammy as a talking point, because this is the direction it's heading.
I mean, what's interesting, actually, we were talking about it just before the break, which is that the US National Security Strategy 2025, the 33-page document outlining the priorities of American foreign policy, and right in the middle of that is basically saving Europe from itself, with the express line about concerning transnational bodies that undermine political liberty and sovereignty. So it's very clear what they think about the idea of the UK getting back involved with the orbit of Brussels. Did you watch Question Time last night? It's the gift that keeps on giving at the moment.
I did not see it, but I'm aware of this enormous controversy, and it's a fascinating development. Tell me what you think.
So, I mean, look, the audience in theory is the people who volunteer. I want to come on, and then they sort of check and go, right, we've got this many people from this side of the political spectrum, that many people from that side. A lot of people on the left lie about their political voting in order to get in and then be a leftist. So the audience is always loaded to the left wing. I don't actually, believe it or not, blame Question Time for that. And clearly, though, I think someone at the sort of editorial levels decided, let's get some migrants on because, you know, it's a hot topic of the day. But the thing is, they just allowed this character to sit there to sort of do the bleary-eyed, but, you know, let's humanise the argument. Let's personify the news. I mean, these people are experts anyway at sitting in front of an immigration official and going, I'm persecuted in my own country. They're hardly going to sit in the Question Time audience and be like, yeah, came for the free cash money, didn't I? Kind of hate the West. Wouldn't mind bombing it one day. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
I think sorry to interrupt. I think it's really fascinating, Alex. And the BBC's objective, I think, has been realised. They're getting everyone to talk about it. Gradually, you know, audiences have been declining for Question Time. And I think this is going to spike it right up. And like I said last time, this is another, in a similar way, it's a direction that politics is heading. It's becoming more sensational. It's becoming more about raising fury and separating people. And I think from that sense, it was a very smart move by the BBC. You're dead right. You are dead right, Alex, that the BBC aims to try and make its Question Time audience, or it certainly did until recently, to make it representative of the voting public. If they had asylum seekers on there deliberately who aren't allowed to vote till they become until they're given permanent leave to remain, then that's a very odd thing to do. However, the subject matter was immigration. So there is an argument, isn't there, that if the subject matter is about immigration, it's in Dover, it's about people crossing the channel and arriving on the shores there, to get some people involved in the conversation is quite interesting and politically and entertainment-wise very juicy.
No, I think that's right. And it's worked, hasn't it? We are all talking about it. Very quickly, before I let you go, as a former independent mayor of Middlesbrough, what's your reaction to 4 mayoral elections being cancelled by the Labour Party?
It is outrageous. I say this as someone who is watching. I am not right now a Reform supporter. I'm not a Labour supporter. I'm genuinely offering my views on someone who's been democratically elected as mayor. It is absolutely outrageous. It's a scandal. It's clearly to avoid Reform taking control of those councils, as they almost certainly would. And if I were Reform, I would be more furious, more determined, and more focused on success than ever before.
Indeed, there's nothing that motivates one more rather than the feeling of anger. Andy Preston, former political commentator, current political commentator, former independent mayor of Middlesbrough. OK, we're going to be taking a short break now. When we come back, we're going to be discussing the fact that Israel are going to be allowed to be in the Eurovision Song Contest, but some countries are going to boycott it. But don't you worry, as long as the BBC agree to it, which they have, of course. Auntie saves the day. That's what we're discussing after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and welcome back. Let's talk about next year's Eurovision, actually, because there's been a big hoo-ha over whether Israel should be allowed to compete or not. Various countries threatening to boycott. And then there was this whole decision made in the European Broadcasting Committee, whatever they're called, that Israel was going to be allowed. And various countries have thrown their toys out of the pram. And people in the UK have thrown their toys out of the pram, saying we need to do the same and we shouldn't, genocide and all the rest of it. Now, the BBC, however, has decided it's going to back the decision to allow Israel. Great. I didn't realise that the BBC got to speak on behalf of Britain about our choices. And then get this, as at a meeting on Thursday attended by Tim Davie, I thought you'd left, mate. I thought you'd gone, son. What, you're coming back and deciding on Eurovision, are you? All right. Approximately 50 broadcasters in the European Broadcasting Union, that's them, which organises the contest, voted against holding a separate vote on banning Israel over the war in Gaza. Let's speak now to the brilliant Nicole Lampert, who is a journalist. Nicole, can I just say, you were like, you're always on my timeline on X, and it's the first time I've actually spoken to you. You are the Nicole Lampert of my X feed. And you've been talking about this a lot, and I noticed you've put down a sort of comment, a very long comment from Dana International, the sort of one of the biggest names in Eurovision winning history. Tell us more.
Exactly. Well, I got a message last night, really late last night, about 11:30, so about 1:30 in the morning in Israel time, from Dana's PR person, who just said, "Can you put this out?" So I did, and it's talking about, obviously, so Dana International was the first ever trans winner of Eurovision, and for people that love Eurovision, that's kind of what it's all about. It's about this, it's very gay and camp and kitsch, and all about Western values, people wearing hardly any clothes. So very opposite to kind of Islamic extremism that Hamas represents. And that's what Dana was saying. It's like, you know, you might be against our government, but we are fighting a war we didn't want to wage. There was an existential threat against us. There still is in many ways. We didn't have a choice here. And are you really on the side of the people that would kill almost every single Eurovision winner that has ever been in history? Which I thought was a very good point. And I've kind of used a little bit of that quote for a little piece that I've done for The Sun tomorrow as well.
Yeah, it was a brilliantly worded statement. I read every single bit of it, and I just thought it's very hard to argue with that. Although I'm not sure whether, you know, sort of rainbow flags and being in a state of undress should necessarily be associated with Western values, but I suppose it is. But, you know, I've never understood, I just can't fathom how people, you know, how do they suffer? How do they not suffer potentially from ontological discord or cognitive dissonance by backing Gaza in this scrap? I mean, to me, I just don't understand how all of these sort of so-called liberal lefties who are sort of Pride Matters, Trans Lives Matters, Black Lives Matter, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, Israel, which basically agrees with all of that stuff on steroids. I've been to Tel Aviv. That is one-party city, very liberal part of the world, surrounded by, as you said, a load of absolutely megalomaniacal Muslim states. And yet all these leftist liberals are like, yeah, we're on the side of the megalomaniacal Muslim states. It's like, what? How?
Well, it just feels to me that as a Jewish journalist, what I feel and what everyone I speak in this country and across Europe, particularly in Ireland, there's this rising sense of anti-Semitism, a rising feeling. Obviously, we had 2 people murdered at synagogue a few months ago, and it's all feeding into that. And anti-Semitism exists not because of anything the Jew has done, but it's because people are unhappy and they're looking for a scapegoat, and the scapegoat is whatever is other. And throughout European history, it's been the Jew. And to me, it just feels, you know, they call like Israel the Jew among nations, and that's what it is. So all of these politicians and all of that, and they're talking about Israel, they're getting so angry about Israel. It means that they're not talking about what's really going on in their countries. They're not talking about immigration, particularly, is a big issue in Ireland. But if they're talking about Israel and they're pretending it's just like the Northern Ireland conflict, they're not addressing their own problems, and they're not properly exploring what's happening in Israel and Palestine.
It's interesting, isn't it, that basically the whole what's going on in Gaza today has fallen off the news agenda, considering it was almost like watching, you know, the BBC commentate on a sports match before the ceasefire. It's like, oh, well, nothing to see here now. I'm like, oh, really? You don't want to report on the fact that Hamas was sort of stalking the streets, shooting people in the face? I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it? As soon as you can't Israel bash, they don't care.
Absolutely, and that's the fascinating thing about this conflict and the BBC. So it's great that the BBC has suddenly come out with this and not been silent, which I would have expected, actually. But yeah, as you say, it became a spectator sport, and it was, what has Israel done that's bad today? So although it was like watching a football match, it was very much one-sided, where the referee was completely not neutral. So there's Hamas is refusing to lay down its arms. So I was listening to an Israeli journalist talking yesterday, and the worry is that what happens now, because there is a ceasefire, Hamas is meant to do this thing, which is let go of its arms. It's not, and as you say, instead it's killing other Palestinians, and no one seems to care. I follow lots of Palestinians who are anti-Hamas on social media, and they were like, where is everyone? You know, where have you gone with your keffiyehs? But actually, what they're doing with their keffiyehs now is they're still screaming in university campuses and all of that, but they're screaming Zionist off our campus, and that's a microcosm of what's going on with the Eurovision, which is it's about the Jew. It's not about the Palestinian. It was never about the Palestinian. It's always about just having a hate figure to get angry about.
It's also about the West in general. There's this sort of conflation that Israel equals the West, which in many respects It does, you know, like you were saying earlier, shared set of values, Judeo-Christian foundations. And it's basically being used as a tool to sort of beat down on our own civilization. It's extraordinary. And I'm glad to see America's concerned about it. I don't know if you've seen that, Nicole, but the national security strategy that's just been released today, 33 pages of Trump's foreign policy, and what he's most worried about is exactly this, civilizational erasure. Europe facing civilizational erasure. And America, I think, is now poised to intervene. So it'll be very interesting to see what that involves.
I have no idea what they're going to. I mean, what are they going to do here? But I think it's time for us to be talking about this stuff. I think it was really interesting, Elon Musk getting involved with the grooming gangs about a year ago. For me, that was a game changer. Although it was something that we all knew about and had talked about briefly, him putting it on the agenda for whatever agenda he had, and perhaps it was malignant, but whatever, it meant that we were talking about it, and that perhaps we will get the grooming gang scandal actually looked at, although I don't know what's happening with that, you know, with the crisis that was going through. But it does show that we need to talk about this stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on in our country that people are too frightened to talk about. I think, you know, and to me, I think that's one reason why people are looking at reform, because they are at least talking about some of these issues, such as immigration, that everyone was too frightened to talk about for too long. So yeah, it'll be interesting if Trump says this, but part of the thing with Trump is that people are then against whatever he says. So
I'm certainly not, and I think increasing people in the UK's population are not. They're rather looking at some of his policies in America and going rather green with envy, I'd imagine. Nicole, it's been wonderful to actually look at you. You're gorgeous, and I'm so pleased to have spoken to you for the first time, because honestly, you're always on my X timeline. What's Nicole saying today? And it's the first time, as far as I'm aware, unless I've got amnesia, the first time we've actually done an interview together. So it's been a real privilege and a pleasure. Thank you so much. Alrighty, let's take a short break now, but when I come back, it's going to be time for messages, calls, voice notes, so roll up, roll up. I need your 2-bit. 03444991000 is the number to call. 8722 is the number to text. Talk before you text. WhatsApp is that long number again, 03444991000. Okay, back after this.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Okay, let's do some chit-chattery now. And first up, we've got Paul, who is in Ascot. Hi there, Paul.
Oh, hello. How are you?
I'm okay. It's a Friday. Do you know what? I am more than okay. I have been counting down the days to this evening for quite a while now because one of my favourite people on earth, my brilliant cousin Dan, is staying with me this weekend. So we're going to meet at the train station at 7:30 and we're going to liquor up and watch the motorsport and I can't wait. Anyway,
Great.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. What I'm actually phoning up about is about the BBC and Question Time. And I just think it's just so ironic that you have a discussion on about and they find 3 people, I think it was 3, that they put in the audience and they're supposed to be, you're supposed to have tickets, aren't you, and random people, and it's supposed to be all equal. And I was saying to your researcher, I was saying, say for argument's sake, they were having a discussion on paedophilia or something. Would they find 3 or 4 paedophilias to put in the audience so they could ask the question
it is
at
sort
random?
of, I know exactly what you're saying, but also it isn't balanced because what you should have is if you're going to bring in Mr. Iran, oh, look, I've had a baby, so I've got to stay here now. Grill him, find out when he came, what his reason was, how long he's been here, has he got a job, when was this baby born, was the baby born because he's using it as a device to stay here? He was just held up, beatified like some sort of teddy bear we should all feel sorry for in a children's cartoon. But what they should have had is one of the young girls saying, I go to a school near one of these asylum hotels and they are always leering at me through the school gates, or I've been approached by these men, I've been chatted up, I've been assaulted. Today, again, another story of an asylum seeker who has raped somebody. This time it's in a tiny little sleepy town in Wales. And you just think, where's that side of the argument? Because that's the side we're not allowed to talk about. We saw this with the grooming gangs. It is happening again. There's no such thing as people doing wrong unless those people are white.
Yeah, you think to yourself, he's one of the guys there was supposed to be here for 5 years. Well, I don't think the boats were coming over 5 years ago, were they?
Oh, there are a few. There were. No, they were. They started around then, if not a bit before then. But people were coming in by overstaying student visas. They were coming in by flying in on a visa and then claiming asylum, or coming in on a temporary work visa, or coming in the backs of lorries. This is the thing. Never forget, Paul, that the numbers that we're given for how many people have come into the country is based only on the small boats and only on those people that we know about. There are boats that land that the people never get detected. There's lorryfuls of people. Actually, I don't know, it'd be interesting to get a pie chart, but I'd imagine, I think I've seen somewhere before, that when it comes to people who are claiming asylum, those who arrived on small boats don't even make a half of the total number. But I just thought, to coin a phrase that I keep saying all the time at the moment, I need to find a new word because I can't stop saying it. I just find it totally egregious. Very egregious. Yeah. Paul, thank you so much for your call. Let's speak to Mark in Glasgow. Mark, what have you been finding egregious lately?
Well, just about everything Labour get up to.
Right.
The truth of the matter is, I've been saying for months, I occasionally get onto, if I can say, Facebook, I get onto there, and I'm a little political because of what I see going on. I didn't used to be. But I've been saying, Nigel Farage, they're going to try and take him down any way they can do in order to, because yes, we know that it's reform, but Farage is the front man. Richard Tice, the others, great job, great people. But they've got to take him down, and they're trying everything they can. I'm just quite surprised they haven't gone into his nappy habits, bedwetting, and so on and so forth. But going back to those days at school, when I was at a secondary school, everyone was full of cheek and nonsense. And yes, there were no politically correct programs on TV. So this is nonsense.
It is egregious.
It shows you how desperate they are to try and they're going to try and keep this story going. They've managed to find a few people who are Holocaust survivors.
The thing is, it isn't cutting through, right? The Guardian are running it again today, and I'm like, fine, no one who buys your rag is going to vote reform anyway. What alarms me, Mark, is I wrote a piece for my Substack about all the ways that the left are going to try and stop reform, and they're all slowly coming true. So the things in their playbook is changing the plebiscite, changing the franchise, which is what they've done. 16-year-olds can now vote. Mark my words, they will give all migrants the right to vote in the next election. They'll be forming of a left-wing Keep Reform Out super coalitions. That's why they're building up Zach Polanski. They're going to try and use lawfare, except Olaf for the EU have already done that 1,000 times already, and I don't think they'll find anything new, which leaves the final thing, right? And that's the scary one. The final thing is the scary one, which is his health and safety, and I hope I'm wrong on that. Mark, thank you ever so much for your call. That was Mark in Glasgow, who finds everything egregious. What do you find egregious? What's your favourite word? I cannot stop saying egregious at the moment. I do this. I sort of wormhole on a particular phrase. And that's it. That is the December 2025 favourite word in the lexicon. Right, I'm back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
go. Egregious. There you go. My word. Do you know, I definitely do. I don't even know I do it, but then someone says, you know, you say that word all the time, and I'm like, do I? My neighbour the other day, I was sort of, where were we driving together? We were driving in the car somewhere, and we were talking about my ex, actually. I've just been through a bit of a boo-hoo sad breakup, but there you go. And I was describing the reasons why we separated, and I was like, because it's not okay. It's not okay. And she was like, you say that all the time. That is such an Alexism. It's not okay. But do you know what isn't okay? It's not okay if you're going to have somebody pop up on a political programme representative of all asylum seekers or all illegal migrants, who sits there, reads from his script, looks like he's got an earpiece on, I don't know. It looks a bit funny in some of the photos I've seen, but I don't know. And I want to know who wrote that thing about the Northern Ireland Protocol. I'm sorry, that dude from Iran don't know nothing about the Good Friday Agreement. Just saying. It's all right having that person on, but they need to be scrutinised. I want to know why he's in the country. I want to know whether he's working. I want to know why he didn't apply for asylum in any of the other places. I want to know why he decided he was going to have a child here. Was it because he then can't, in his mind, be deported? You can't just have someone as the sort of fluffy, cuddly mascot for migration and be like, oh, but look, what if he goes back to Tehran? Aren't you mean? Say it to his face. And it's like, no, what I want to do is, but now listen here, son. I want to ask you about your story. Because I'm sure there's going to be elements of it which, to coin a favourite word of Alex, I might find egregious. Let's speak now to the brilliant Matthew Laza, former Labour advisor. Hi, Matthew.
Hello. I hope I'm okay. I hope I'm, I hope I passed the test.
You're not egregious, although I looked up egregious for some reason. I just thought I need to check that I'm using it correctly. I am. It means shockingly bad. But archaically, right, apparently back in the day, it used to mean shockingly good. So maybe you are egregious.
It's a bit like sick, isn't it? Which used to mean bad and now means good for the young people.
I'll tell you what it is a lot like, actually. I was listening. I don't know what put me in mind of it, but I was listening on the train home last night to a playlist I've made on Spotify, which are all the songs I remember my grandparents singing when they were still alive. Oh, I was talking about hats because I keep losing hats. And I remember my grandma singing this song about...
With my lack of hair, I'd rather need one.
I know, right? Especially in this weather. My grandma used to sing this song about where did you get that hat, where did you get that pile? Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was listening to that, and so it started doing a sort of mix, the algorithm-driven mix on songs of the same era. And one thing I noticed was pretty much all of them involved the word gay. And I'm like, yeah, that was a word back in the day.
Meaning. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. No one says, oh, we have a gay old time in the war.
Well, there was a whole musical called "Gay's the Word," which from Ivan Novello, who himself was the later term of gay, and it then was the London's first gay bookshop took it as its title when the word meaning changed. So the innocent days. Isn't
it funny, the evolution of language? I keep talking about etymology too much at the moment. People are going to start tuning out and think I came here for the news, not for Dictionary Corner. So news is what we are going to give them.
Cultural Friday, bit of class.
It's cultural every day with me, Matthew. You know that, my darling.
No, I do.
Now, let's talk about last night's question. So let's give them some free advertising, shall we? Because they must actually, to be honest, they must be rubbing their hands together with glee, because there'll be a lot of people now who are going to go back on the iPlayer and rewatch the episode just to see all the things that happened. But let's actually play the clip of our mate from Iran first.
The man in the white shirt, now I know you came over on a small boat. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
What's your response to what you're hearing? Because obviously everyone is talking about people like you.
Well, let me say something first. I just want to clear that leaving the convention doesn't just affect the migrants. It would give ordinary people one less court to protect their rights. Even for weekend checks, and the government power risk on peace settlement in Northern Ireland and damage our security cooperation. Do you think this is...
I'll happily answer that question. My parents came here legally. They did not come here illegally. And look, there's a clear dividing line in British politics. If you're watching this at home and you want to vote for a party that will prioritise the interests of foreign nationals who came here illegally, or do you want to vote for a party that are going to prioritise British citizens who work hard, set their alarm clocks in the evening before going to bed, and toil to pay tax money?
That is not the dividing line. That is not the dividing line in British politics right now.
Do you know how much money the British
taxpayer
had to pay?
There are other choices available.
Do you know how much money the British taxpayers had to pay for universal credit payments alone for foreign nationals last year? That was £10 billion. Do
you know how much an asylum seeker gets a week?
Hang on, if you're talking, no one can hear.
£49 a week. £49 a week. This is what this man wants to take off you.
29, British taxpayers will be spending half the forecast defence budget on universal credit alone for foreign nationals. There's nothing about that that's remotely acceptable, and I'm sorry, we will stick up for British citizens who paid their taxes.
Oh, Cruella de Vil really rubs me up the wrong way. I don't know what it is about that woman, but she really ticks me off. But anyway, Matthew, listen, let's be fair. You can see the phone in the shot. He's sitting there reading stuff about, the lack of human rights and security cooperations. I'm like, dude, who wrote that for you? I think we deserve to know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I produced many a live discussion programme in my time. In fact, I nearly became the editor of Question Time.
Did you?
I gave it to a former member of the SWP instead. The Socialist Workers' Party instead. True story. When David Dibbleby found out that the other chap was a member of the Socialist Workers' Party, he wasn't very happy. But thereby hangs another tale. I haven't seen the whole show. I've just seen the clips. It seemed to me that it didn't really. What they were trying to do was, if you're doing a discussion where you're calling on different groups of people to say, here are people who use the NHS. Say you're doing a debate on the NHS and you talk to the doctors, you talk to patients, you talk to the nurses, you talk to the group representing the ancillary staff. That's a bit different to Question Time, which is meant to be voters questioning politicians. And so it seemed to me it was a little bit weird. And then he was clearly reading it out. The BBC won't have given him that. What they will do is, they will have found them via a campaign group, and the campaign group scripted them to the nth degree. But the BBC should have known that would happen, and therefore it doesn't seem to be appropriate. Now, if you're making a documentary, it's perfectly legitimate to hear the voice of people who've been through the system if you're actually having a conversation with them. But when they're reading off their phone from a campaign group, it makes me uncomfortable in that format. So that's that's where I'm from.
I kind of see it that these people we use, there's a couple of them in the audience, they were almost used as emotional blackmail. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like, oh, come on, Zia Yusuf, tell him to his face. And at the same time, we don't know anything about these people. We don't know their reasons for being here. We don't know why they couldn't seem to settle in any other country. We don't know whether he had that child. His main shtick for not being able to go back to Iran was, I've had a baby now, as I bet you have. Oh, that doesn't separate you from the masses, does it, sunshine, of people coming out of various devices to stay in Britain? I've got a baby now, and she's going to learn things in English, and if she goes back to Iran, she'll have to speak in Farsi. Oh, you can't help her with that. Oh, did you forget your own language? I'm sorry. This stuff is just ridiculous. And yet I kind of feel like, sort of pulling out the human being and sort of saying, look at this lovely shiny one in his white shirt, being able to read in sort of multisyllabic words about legal issues in the UK and all of our human rights is emotional blackmail.
I mean, clearly, if you're going to have heard their voices, you need to have heard from a range of voices with people with not just different opinions, but with different experience. If you're picking on people in the audience because you wanted to bring in experience, and I've done shows, as I say, where you'll have people who are, pro this or, and anti that, whether it's a debate on hunting. When I first produced TV shows in this sort of hunting with hounds, dogs, era, was being banned, etc. You do a classic, let's hear from both sides of the argument. I mean, as I say, I haven't seen the whole programme, but unless we heard from people who are concerned about the safety of their children, somewhere where there are 500 or 600 asylum-seeking men in one place, then you're not hearing from everybody's lived experience. So either you need to hear from a range of lived experience, you can't hear from one set of lived experiences. And as a person who nearly got to run that show some years ago now, I would have said that that's not quite how the format should work, because what you do end up with is, if you end up with people from community groups, from campaign groups like that, whether they're from an pro-asylum campaign group or an anti-asylum campaign group, you're going to have people reading off their phones questions, because that's the nature of it being in the audience, because you're not having a conversation with them. It's much better to hear the person asking the question and then a range of random views from what's meant to be a randomly selected, weighted to the population representative audience.
Oh,
So
the BBC missed a trick by not having you, Lars. You'd have been all right. You'd have been fairly sound. Shame.
I'd have had you on regularly, Alex.
Oh, now listen, let's talk about what appears to be a pretty right-wing proposal. This will have that blimmin' Cruella de Vil and that weird snaggletooth Voldemort having kittens. That Sir Keir Starmer is suggesting that illegal migrants might be deported to North Macedonia, because North Macedonia is a country that has now entered formal talks with the UK about opening a migrant return hub. Kosovo is also in talks. I mean, I love this. And then Bosnia. It's like, let's just go round to some old war zones, shall we? Rwanda. No, Rwanda bad. Genocide there about 30 years ago. Let's sniff around Bosnia and Kosovo instead. Is mad.
Well, the genocide was 30 years ago there too.
Well, no, I know. Well, no, but this is the thing. I've always said that Rwanda, is a very solid and stable East African country. A lot of East Africa looks at Rwanda and goes, wow, you got your stuff together pretty well. What a cause for celebration. But everyone's like, isn't it terrible? Oh, Rwanda's awful. I'm like, racist, any? Have you been there? But anyway, this is going to upset the backbenchers, isn't it? If the poor, precious, beatified, beautiful migrants that we need so much, that we love, that our hearts should bleed for, we should do everything we can. Have the coat off my back, please, it's yours. If they're instead sent to North Macedonia.
You're on fire today, Alex. So I think that the difference is, I've always said, we've had many conversations where I've said that offshore processing, Labour has never ruled offshore processing out. It didn't rule it out before the election. It ruled Rwanda out. It didn't rule offshore processing out. And the big difference, there are two big differences, one of which is that this is the major difference that would really affect Labour opinion, is that this would be people processed offshore, but processed under British law. So that what was going to happen in Rwanda was people were going to be sent to Rwanda and dealt with under Rwandan law, which was what was why the courts kept holding it up, because it wasn't applying British law. It was basically shipping people to a third country to be dealt with in a foreign system, as it were. What would happen if you're offshore processing, which the EU is trialling, because Albania sometimes likes it, sometimes doesn't, but Italy in particular wants it to happen in Albania. There's also a big EU push to do it in Tunisia as well, so that basically people who are coming the route through North Africa or through that corner of the Mediterranean never actually arrive on EU shore. So the two things that it does is, geographically, if you cut people off in the Balkans or you cut people off in North Africa, what you're basically doing is if people never come to, you don't have the massive people coming into the EU, and then many of them, indeed a lot of them, coming over to the UK. But you also, so that's a disincentive. It's a disincentive in the first place. It's a disincentive because you don't have entry into the territory, and geographically it makes more sense than Africa, because you're effectively you're capturing is the wrong word. You're getting people on the way rather than arriving here and then deporting them to Rwanda. So actually, if it works, and that's a big if, it could be brilliant.
Well, do you know what? I hope it does. I think we all hope that this government comes up with a strategy to tackle this, because, it'd be rather counterproductive if people like me wish them ill on this topic. I'm going to ask you about what I think is an absolutely stunning story. I spotted it on the train coming over here, and I think the Times are now running it as their top story, and I don't blame them, because it's unprecedented. It is coming from Donald Trump, so most things that come out of the White House under the Trump tenure are unprecedented. But what this is...
I would argue, and egregious.
Archaically egregious. Yeah, shockingly good. Original trad. He's a trad man, isn't he? Trad egregious. Let's talk about this. It's the 2025 US National Security Strategy. It sets out an America-first view of US global relations, demonstrating stark ideological differences between most Western European allies and Washington, in the words of the Times. But what's interesting about it is particularly a few things here. One, is that there's a statement saying that Europe faces the stark prospect of civilizational erasure. The European Union undermines political liberty and sovereignty. Migration policies are transforming the continent. The censorship of free speech and suppression of political opposition is worrying. Loss of national identity is a loss of self-confidence. And it says, should present trends continue, the continent will be unrecognizable in 20 years or less. And it's far from obvious whether Europe will have economies and militaries strong enough to remain reliable allies. This is very strong. And what we know as well is the White House have told their diplomats in the UK and across Europe to report back on what is going on that they find egregious. And there seems to be some suggestion as well that America wants to have a strategy where they try and enhance the populist parties and make sure that Europe gets a different kind of leadership. I mean, I know that the left will sort of scream blue murder about electoral interference, but let's not pretend Obama didn't do that or the Labour Party didn't send people over to help Kamala Harris. But what stands out to me is that, quite how not just concerned America is about Europe, but how this now is part of, the very centre point of their strategic foreign policy.
Well, look, I think it's the gall and the gumption of the US administration to be saying these things. I mean, I actually worry for America because I don't know what allies America's going to have left. So it's if the strategy is to boost populist parties, they want to boost Viktor Orban in Hungary, who actually is about to lose the next election, the strong man of Hungary, who is actually Putin's best friend in Europe, who would make us all less safe. Donald Trump should concentrate on supporting Ukraine and standing up to Vladimir Putin rather than being sort of what's what magpies do, seeing a bit of silver, thinking, oh, I want my name to go on a peace deal, so I'll pay peace at any price. I mean, he's the kind of Neville Chamberlain.
But do you think you must agree that there is some truth in this? Now, whether or not you sort of believe it to its full extent, I personally do. I sign up hook, line and sinker to the lot of it. But there is truth that migration policies are transforming the continent and creating strife. There is truth about censorship of free speech. I mean, we've got the story of Elon Musk's ex being fined 120 million euros by the EU because it wouldn't censor certain things. There is collapsing economies, lack of self-confidence, loss of national identity. I mean, there isn't much in here that you can say, actually, that is abjectly false.
No, I mean, I disagree with that, Alex. I think there's a lot in there you'd say is false. And I think also in a country where where free speech does not reign free in the United States, if Donald Trump had his way. I mean, we saw with the incident over the chat show host, he tried to pressure to get rid of. And the fact that he's now banning the New York Times from going to briefings at the Pentagon. They're having to take his administration to court. That's not an encouragement of free speech. Are there problems in Europe? Is there migration crisis? But by the way, of course, the EU has halved the number of asylum seekers in the last year. It may even be greater than that. Some of it actually isn't even true in terms of the problems are being tackled. In terms of defence, the Americans are absolutely right that Europe has been freeloading for too long off the US. But what's happening is we're seeing a step change in spending across the continent, not least in Germany, the biggest EU economy, as well as here in the UK as well. So it seems to me that it's like a sort of mishmash of half-truths when it should be the biggest ally, when it should be supporting their biggest ally, which is Europe.
Very briefly, the idea of civilizational erasure, very strong terms there. That doesn't keep you up at night.
Look, not in the terms that Donald Trump phrases it. Do I want an integrated society? Do I think that migration has to be controlled? Do I think that Europe as a whole and Britain have at times indeed lost control of migration and made serious mistakes? Yes. I wouldn't put civilizational erasure in those terms. No. I think Europe's civilization thrives, and we don't need Donald Trump telling us about it.
Matthew, you are my favourite former Labour Party advisor. I love Matthew. I love Matthew Lars. He's great down the boozer. OK, we're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about two things, actually. Germany voting to bring back voluntary military service for 18-year-olds, voluntary. Interesting. But are other European countries now going to follow suit, and what is the motivation? Is it really fear of Russian invasion, or perhaps part of this is to reinstill a sense of national identity that Donald Trump worries is being lost across Europe? We're also going to be talking about the cancellation of those mayoral elections with a would-be candidate. That's after this.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back. Now, before I introduce my brilliant guest who's in the studio, something quite interesting just happened to our colleagues at TalkSport. They happen to be over in Washington, D.C. for the draws for the Football World Cup this evening. Now, we are going to let you know the fate of both England and Scotland in those draws, but they were there about to cover the important matters of sport, and guess who stopped by to have a chat?
Mr. Trump, one word for France. Please, Mr. President. Mr. President, thank you. Of the World Cup. It's a great honor to be here. Johnny's done a fantastic job. The ticket sales are setting records. I mean, we've already set the record. and it's been great.
Mr. President, can America win the World Cup?
Well, I think so. I think a lot of people feel they have a little bit of a shot. It's pretty stiff competition, but I would say they would have a small chance.
How honoured are you to win the FIFA Peace Award?
Well, it'd be an honour.
Are you going to root for some selection? You want to root for someone?
Yeah, well, I root for a lot of countries, actually, but in this case, I'm rooting for the USA.
What a coup for America, having the soccer World Cup. Did I say that right, Greg?
No.
How would you say it?
Soccer.
Soccer.
Yeah.
Soccer.
You know what? I prefer football. It's just you kick a ball with your foot. It just makes sense.
Yeah, but then your football is the weird sort of
confusing.
fake
so
news
they had to
rugby.
They had to give it a new name. Lacrosse is the rugby of America. Men's lacrosse. Very violent.
Is it?
A lot of speed.
Lacrosse?
Yeah.
Violent?
Yeah, absolutely. It's unlike women's lacrosse here, which is more of a spread game and more of a movement game. Men's lacrosse is like rugby. It's just put your helmet on, give a guy a stick, and let's kill each other.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
I've
great.
never seen it. I did not expect that.
My son was really, really good at it.
Really?
I know a lot about it from him.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah.
Because my rule for sport is I only like stuff that involves death and maiming.
It's important to have violence. That's why I like ice hockey.
Yes.
You got the guy, the enforcer comes out, the whistle blows, he goes and hits somebody, gets in a fight, and then they know not to mess with him again.
That is the whole point of sport. It's the violence, isn't it?
Yeah, and at least in lacrosse, unlike European football, they score. The games are like 12 to 10.
That's what I don't understand about soccer.
Business,
yeah.
nil-nil.
Like you can spend 90 minutes of your life watching nothing.
I'm going to get some hate speech for this or some hate mail for this, but
not from me, my darling.
It's everybody. It's like communism. Everybody plays the same position and nobody wins.
I love that.
Probably not the right place to do this. That would be funnier in New York, but not here in London.
I don't think much is funny in New York at the moment under that mayor of yours. Now, let's talk about this extraordinary report, which is the US National Security Strategy, 33 pages, the sort of blueprint of what US global relations are going to be. And it seems very much at the top of the list is we've got to save Europe from itself. It is going to be erased. There will be no Europe. They're not doing it themselves. What are we going to do about it? And that is my question, actually, because I'm like, they're going, oh, my God, thank you. Thank you for noticing. Please help us. They're not listening. In fact, they're turning up the volume. This Labour government just want to put on steroids all the mad global socialist stuff. I kind of feel like they act like terrorists and saboteurs against their own country. So please.
They hate the United Kingdom. It's really tragic.
It's so crazy.
And by the way, the left is similar in America. You could see it with the protests and Mamdani and all the idiocy. And so, fear not. This is America in 2021. We had the same thing. We had open borders, 15 million illegal migrants coming in. We had rampant, the state was growing on steroids. You had $7 trillion of new spending, which created the inflation. You had lockdowns, in the blue states anyway. In 25 of the states, you had UK-style lockdowns. And so, we were in the same boat 5 years ago, 4 years ago. So fear not. The President Trump knows how to read the room. He gets what people are thinking. And people are unhappy here, just like they were unhappy in the U.S., even not in just 4 years ago, but just 14 months ago. And so I think Nigel's doing the same thing. He reads the room. He gets the people. So I'm not bailing on this country yet. I think there's hope for it.
But what is it that America can potentially do? Because I know that one of the instructions to diplomats is tell us what is going on. Let us know, because the government, the slimy Starmer, just sweep it all under the carpet. Tries to butter up Donald Trump with one particular visit, and then sort of does completely the opposite the minute his back's turned. So what else could America do to help save Europe? I mean, what is in their toolkit? Because I'm there looking across the Atlantic going, we need your help. Please, dear God, come. It's the 11th hour. And they're like, yes, we get it. We're here. Okay, what?
Yeah, there's a few things. One is shut the borders. I mean, that is what's right.
But America can't shut our borders, though.
No, and I think, but that's the advice that you would get. And I think from both the president and then you had, J.D. Vance saying the same thing and a lot of the conservative critics. And then, so it's definitely shut the border. It's liberate the private sector, right? The state, Western Europe is a bunch of welfare states.
But this is the thing, look, we know that Starmer's not going to do that, right?
Right.
So what I want to know is, I mean, do we just have to wait possibly as long as 4 years and then hopefully watch, I don't know, a big fancy shiny American campaign team come and throw their weights behind reform? Or is there something else they're going to do?
Well,
Could they turn around and put sanctions against the UK?
In the meantime, I think it's very difficult for a leader of a leftist party like Keir Starmer to do the things that need to be done. I think, you know, closing the border is going to be difficult because they love illegal migrants. They're importing voters, right? I mean, Sadiq Khan will be the mayor forever if they keep importing voters. And so I'm not sure that Keir Starmer can do that. I don't think he can go supply-side economics. It's not in their DNA. It's not in their ideology. However, the one thing that they could do is go back to being the party of free speech. Because remember, the Democrats and Labor, they used to be the ones demanding free speech. They were much more free speech than the parties of the right. That should be a natural for them to go back to that.
I just wonder, right, because I'm putting things together here, and there's no point ever underestimating Trump. He will always do things that are unexpected, that you think would never happen. And I wonder, this whole instruction to diplomats to report back, are they going to essentially collate a dossier of data, turn round, and next time Starmer's invited over to the cosy old fireside chat in the Oval Office, it might not be as cosy. He might suddenly find this report very publicly thrown at him with a threat of, remember, we don't put tariffs against you. Well, guess what, sunshine?
Right.
If you don't agree to do the thing to save your country, we're going to consider these abuses of human rights. You're an unreliable ally. We don't think you should be in Five Eyes anymore. You know, whatever. I mean, do you actually think Donald Trump might get to the point where he's sort of turns the screw on
hope
Starmer?
not, but the threat of that, I think, will be what's important here. And remember, the president, he loves Europe. I mean, he especially loves the UK. I'm not sure he loves the rest of Europe. But J.D. Vance, when he made his comments at the Munich conference, wasn't saying it out of spite or dislike. He's saying it because, you know, you're our cousins, right? And this is important to America to have allies. This whole America First thing, America alone. And so it pains people to see what's happening in this great country. And it pains us a little less to see what's happening in Germany and France, but it still pains us.
Now, we've got a few issues with your microphone, apparently. I could hear some sort of scratchy tracing paper noise in the deep, deep depths of my ear. So we're going to take a little break now and hopefully find some better technology. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, hello, welcome back. Did they actually come and change your mic there?
Yes.
Oh, good. I don't know how I didn't notice that. You're sitting right there. I was like going mad.
Things are so efficient here. It just happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was so weird. For some reason, I didn't even see that. I'm literally going crazy after a week of work. It's sending me tonto. So we were discussing what measures, because I get the feeling that Trump is the sort of person who will give Starmer a public dressing down in the fireside chat. I think Starmer's got to be very careful of that. He rehearsed so much, he practiced so much, didn't he, before the last meeting with Trump. And people said, haven't they got a very good relationship? Because all Starmer's doing
I give the Prime Minister credit. I think, in spite of all his bad policy decisions here in the UK, I think he's handled the relationship pretty well. Given their political differences.
This is where I think until now.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me that the message, if there's one thing that this national security report does, is it says we're watching, we do care. And if it's in the security strategy report, it suggests to me, not only are we watching and we care, but we will act.
Yeah.
This isn't just a case of, don't like that. To me, if it's in this, it's saying that we will act on something. And that is the bit that I'm wondering about.
Yeah, I think, I think the critics will say, well, you shouldn't butt into another country's business. Well, no, it is our business, given the intelligence sharing and the relationship, but also we are the biggest superpower. We are protecting Europe. And so I think the American taxpayer gets a little impatient when we American taxpayers are paying for the NHS, free healthcare, and 6 weeks holidays in France, and 8-week holidays in Germany, and the big welfare states. I mean, we have our own welfare state problems, but they don't compare to the welfare state issues.
I get the idea as well. Trump had actually retweeted something on social media the other day, which was a post, and I can't remember who it was by, but the post essentially said, America's got to deal with, the Muslim problem in certain states, otherwise you're going to end up like the UK.
Right.
And the conversation is increasingly, I get the impression, and I wonder, I was speaking to someone who might have been on this show about Trump's strategy towards Putin. Putin, bad guy, we all get it. Yeah. But I get the impression that his main motivation now is the defence of Christendom.
Yeah.
And that maybe he's trying to drive a wedge between Putin and Iran.
Right.
And say, right, come on, let's bring Putin in from the cold because, look, they're a Christian European country. Things are going to happen.
I would agree. That's part of it. I think making sure Russia doesn't cozy up with China, that's really important. China's always going to be involved in every decision that the U.S. makes. And so, and he, look, let's face it, we might be the biggest superpower, but we need allies. We need Europe to be strong. That's why he was pushing for NATO. He wasn't saying NATO's bad. He was saying NATO needs some improvement. And so now you have commitments at 5%, but 5% of GDP for defense spending. But that's not going to happen as long as these welfare states keep expanding. And we're challenging that in the U.S. because the welfare states have expanded grotesquely in the last 5 years. And so it needs to be addressed, but we're not even close to what we've seen in Europe. So we do look to Europe as this is what could happen to us if it doesn't correct. We would rather it corrects in Europe first.
I mean, it's fascinating. I think America suddenly sort of understood the situation in Europe in no small part. I think it was a key moment in the course of history, which was the purchase of Twitter by Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden we discovered that so many things were being silenced, suppressed and censored during COVID. We also started to be able to exchange information and opinions. And when Elon Musk turned around and went, oh my God, I did not know about the rape gangs.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand why that felon George Floyd dies and the whole world's taken the knee.
Yeah,
and
the
we've had
fentanyl overdose of George Floyd.
Exactly,
right?
Fentanyl overdose. So, and we've had 250,000 sickeningly, violently, evilly abused little white girls targeted for not being Muslim.
Yeah.
Targeted.
Yeah.
And if this was the other way around, if it was like, oh, guess what? You know, Sikh girls are being targeted by white gangs in the UK, we would be sanctioned.
Outrage.
There'd be UN Security Council meetings about it. There'd be protests in other countries. There would be people who weren't trading with us. You know, it's like, what?
Yeah.
But what's fascinating is, you know, I do think the freedom of X has been so important, and yet here we go. The EU are fining X 120 million euros because, look, this is copy from The Guardian, so you've got to take a pinch of salt with how they write it, because it was found in breach of new EU digital laws. But even they say in their copy that X failed to provide required access to public data, who keep tabs on contentious issues such as political content. Elon went, you ain't doing this again. You're not using the sort of marketplace, the forum, if you will, of free speech to start harassing people, hounding them, collecting data, trying to infiltrate it, sway the argument. Good on him.
Right.
Thank God.
And think about the history here. Back when X was independent, or Twitter was not owned by Elon Musk and it was owned by public investors, you know, it was President Trump's outlet. It was really new. He was using Twitter because he didn't have to go through the mainstream media, because the mainstream media was always going to butcher what he said.
He'd basically be announcing a press conference and it'd be a line on X or a line on Twitter as it was then.
And that the whole argument was he's going right to the people. So X was really good for President Trump until they decided to take him off of it and censor him. And they censored the Hunter Biden laptop, and they censored the New York Post. So, you know, this was outrageous, and that's when Elon stepped in, because he saw how good it was for not just President Trump, but anybody who wanted to bypass the corporate media in the U.S. And what did they do when that started working for President Trump and other conservatives? They pulled the plug. And so it was really outrageous. And then, of course, Facebook piled on, and the big networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, all censored the Hunter Biden laptop. And then came clean after the election, of course. So
and
talk
actually,
about election.
I feel like, you know, what's gone on with X has actually brought lots of the other .com bros into the loop, and they were going, what is this populism thing? That's interesting. But I actually think this is going to create a big bone of contention between America and the EU. Are they mates again, by the way, Elon and Donald? Because I think I saw a picture on Thanksgiving with them all sitting around the table, and I was like, babies.
They kissed and made up.
I love it.
He retweets the president's stuff, and no, it's all good.
I'm glad that's what Thanksgiving is all about, and I want to give thanks to you, Greg. It's always wonderful catching up with you.
Alex.
You're so brilliant. Just lovely. Right, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Rear Admiral Chris Parry to discuss Germany putting into place voluntary national service, but also the cancelled mayoral elections. Stay tuned to find out why. Chris Parry might have something to say about that.
the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right, welcome back and welcome aboard. Aye, Captain, or should I say Commander, Rear Admiral, or should I say Rear Admiral, actually, Chris Parry, former Royal Navy Commander, ex-NATO as well, one of my favourite people. Thank you for your service and thank you for being on the programme. Let's begin with the story that Germany has now voted on the policy to bring back voluntary military service for 18-year-olds. They've discussed this in France, they're discussing this in other European countries. This already exists, I think, in Belgium, possibly in a few more, Greece maybe still, I don't know. But what do you think the significance of this is? Because I don't necessarily believe the top line is we're worried about Russia. Could be, but I get the impression this is more about how on earth do we bring back hierarchy, national pride, social stability. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Well, good evening, Alex. I enjoyed listening to my friend Greg Swanson just now. He talks a lot of sense, I think, don't you?
Yeah, I love him. He's a wonderful man. If only there were 1,000 Gregs in the world.
Oh, they are. They're over in the United States, though. That's the thing.
I know, right? I was just saying to her, I was like, Greg, do you know any hot young American men you can set me up with?
Alex, I'll sort you out. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Alex, the basic issue is that everybody's got very alarmed by what's happened in Ukraine, and quite a lot of the northern European countries think that they're next. And I have to say that I think once Ukraine does wrap up, Vladimir Putin is going to turn his attention to the Baltic states, to Sweden, and Finland, and that's going to drag in Germany and Poland, to tell you the truth. As far as the UK is concerned, we're the farthest, apart from Ireland, of course, which doesn't really play, from any land threat as far as Russia's concerned. So it's not immediate for us, but it is for Germany and for Poland. I think you're quite right. I think there is a way of actually employing their youth as soon as they come out of school. It's very tempting to set up these schemes like conscription to try and hide some of your unemployment statistics. And we saw it under the Blair government, getting people into university, for example. So there's a bit of that as well. I think, I know the Germans, there is an element of wanting to stiffen the spine. You detect it when you go along to football matches. They do have a fine military tradition, of course, which got rather blighted by having the Nazis in power. So they've shied away from it in the past. But what's really interesting, Alex, and this is what I think is driving it, if you go back before Germany was formed, it was the fact that Prussia was a really strong military state that drove the rest of the German states together to become Germany. Now, if Germany becomes the preeminent military power in Europe, it'll drive the other states together into a European superstate.
Ooh. Not sure I like the idea of the European superstate.
Yeah, that's what this is about.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah. So you look back in history, you had this customs union called the Zollverein in Germany between the sort of 50 or so states that made up the German Empire. And as I said, it was Prussia's military strength that enabled them to project outwards against Denmark, Austria-Hungary and France that brought the German nation into being in 1871.
Wow. look at you knowing your history. Do you think we should, but should we be considering something like this? Because I don't think it's a terrible idea. The fact that it's voluntary is one thing, but I wonder if there can be things that sort of encourage people to do it, like, you know, do a year of military service and then we will take money off your tuition fees or something like that, or you'll have a tax break. But I think that we could do with something like this in the United Kingdom. I think we should probably target people even younger, 16, because, and the reason I say that is I actually think that that particular generation, that age group, are the very people who need to be reacquainted with the idea of responsibility, of agency, of leadership, of patriotism, and actually of being fit and healthy. And so I think there are all sorts of benefits were we to look at this. But when I've spoken to people from the military, they've said, oh my God, do you honestly think with our sort of dwindling resources, we've got the time to now run summer camps for kids?
Yeah, Alex, I mean, I'm reading a book on conscription at the moment, oddly enough, because I'm doing some work for a political party. And the best way to do this is to say to people leaving the service, look, we're going to pay you a retainer for the next 3 years, you know, a nominal amount. We'd like you to keep in training. We'd like you to keep your skills together. And at any time, we may call you back to be what you were when you left the service. So if you're a principal warfare officer in the Navy, that's the job that you'll do in wartime. And so what we need to do, first of all, I think, is employ those people on a sale and return basis on a retainer to say, you've already got the skills. Let's just hang on to them for 2 or 3 years after you've left, or even 5 years if they're the sort of skills that will survive. And as you say, I think we should say to people, we can offer you a scheme that gets you up to a certain level of proficiency. But the other problem, Alex, is, you know, the basic skills now are not in play. Certainly you need infantry people, there's no question about that. But the level of technical knowledge you need now for operating, you know, quite a lot of systems like drones and things like that, you can actually get off the street. So what we need to do is say, let's earmark people with skills that we are going to need in combat, not direct combat, but the wider combat.
So taking the route more of having reservists rather than a military service.
That's right. And I think that way you lessen the loading. I mean, this conscription book that I'm reading at the moment, the amount of effort that it takes just to keep people occupied, and most of the time, you know, people were doing nothing. They were standing around doing nothing. They were painting things, they were cleaning things. And of course, it was, unless you were in Korea or somewhere like, or Malaya or somewhere like that, you didn't get involved in combat. If you look at Michael Caine's biography, for example, I mean, Michael Caine, believe it or not, was an infantryman in Korea. He nearly got killed by the Chinese, a hair-raising escape from the Chinese. It's a real read.
I mean, this is where I think, and you know, if I were to sort of proffer an interesting policy, it'd be that the age of 16, I think kids basically have to stay in employment, educational training or something until the age of 18 now. But my idea would be more like get them when they've done their GCSEs that summer and say, right, you know, for at least 2 weeks or something, you have to go and do, you have to, I think it should be compulsory, some form of voluntary military service. So it could be, right, you're going to go to, I suppose we can't use an old army barracks, or the migrants are there now. But, you know, you have to do press-ups, drills, all the rest of it, sleep on camp beds, polish your shoes, take instructions. Or if someone, you know, because when I was 16, that would have been my nightmare, but I'd have happily probably gone and filled some potholes for 2 weeks, or, I don't know, worked as care in the community, delivered meals to the elderly, something like that. And I actually think that that sort of connection to serving your country and the discipline, and you don't have a choice, you've got to do this or else, could end up being quite constructive, particularly, I think, for those sort of, the very people we need to approach, the people who sort of, I've got anxiety, I can't do it, I don't want to work, or the people who'd rather tool around on a bicycle robbing mobile phones. I actually think, I wonder if it could give these people, especially the latter lot, actually, an avenue to saying, actually, I enjoyed that. That gave me a sense of something that, you know, really I could see myself doing, and take kids out of, you know, street crime and into service.
It's interesting, Alex, you know, when we get people into HMS Raleigh, which is our basic training establishment in the Navy, after a couple of weeks, we invite the parents down for a passing out parade, and the parents cannot believe the product that is produced at the end of it. They've totally changed. You're absolutely right. What I would prefer to tell you the truth, when I joined the Navy, you could go to war age 16. In fact, some of the people we took to The Falklands, who died, were 17-year-olds. And so, that sort of thing has gone out of fashion and favour, to tell you the truth. But what I think you can do, and I think where it would help, is we look at those skills that we're going to need in wartime. And they're not just about running around parade grounds and bayoneting people and things like that. Look, we've got loads of children who are really used to technical games and things like that. They're the future drone operators that we need, you see?
So instead of sitting there playing Fortnite, look, control a drone. Chris, I'm going to move the subject on because we're running very short of time. And this is a very important topic to discuss with you, which is the fact that 4 mayoral elections have been cancelled, all 4 of them. Reform was set to win. Now, it turns out you might be particularly aggrieved that they have cancelled, or at least postponed, the mayoral election in Hampshire and Solent. Tell us why.
Well, Alex, yeah, it's true. I was the mayoral candidate for Hampshire, and I always say the Isle of Wight and the Solent. And on the very day that I launched my campaign, Keir Starmer decided that having me on the battlefield was obviously too strong for him, and he ran away straight away and postponed the elections until May 2028.
But I'm assuming you're going to stick at it, remain the candidate, and go into battle and win the battle in 2028, one hopes.
Well, John Paul Jones said, I have not yet begun to fight. And you don't want to get me mad, I can tell you. Yes, of course, I'm honoured to say that the party and my local areas said, please stay on and compete again in 2028.
I mean, having someone of your calibre in their ranks would certainly be a great boon for reform, is a great boon for reform. And it'd be interesting, actually, to see when they do release their policy on defence and the military. Well, we know who to ask, don't we? Chris, it's always lovely catching up with you. Thank you ever so much for coming on the programme. Let's do a couple of messages now before we go to the adverts. I've not read any out yet. I'm being very slow. Question Time lost all credibility when Robin Day died, apparently. Fiona Left-Wing Bruce should stick to rummaging around old tat on the Antiques Roadshow. I rather like Fiona Bruce, and I don't think it's her fault. Alex, what really annoys me about that clip is make my boobs bigger Zach saying, see, they want to take the £49 from you. What about free accommodation, free food, free healthcare? He's a buffoon, says Becca in Norfolk. I think many people out there would agree. I'm going to call him Voldemort. Anyway, don't go anywhere. James Price joins us next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Let's groove down to the music. It's 6 o'clock. The weekend is starting right here. What are you drinking? You've just come in from work, haven't you? And you've turned me on. Not like that. Come on. Behave. And you're pouring yourself something, and I'm jealous. I ain't gonna lie. I've got an empty Coke can. That's it. That's all I've got. But don't you worry. Give it an hour and a half, and I'm going to be, acting like a proper English girl from the West Country, popping my gin in a tin on the Great Western Rail. Yeah, and then the fun is going to begin as I head back to the Shire, the very Shire from whence I came and from whence my next guest came, who is also following in my footsteps and making the sensible decision to repatriate back to England out of Londonistan. It's the magnificent Babber-in-Chief, Mr. James Price. Hello, James.
All listeners and viewers are welcome to come and visit in God's real own county.
It is. I cannot. Seriously, guys. I mean, anyone listening, it is beginning. The right-wing enclave is now going to be officially established from spring. Everyone else is a Lib Dem in that neck of the woods because it's so nice. Basically being a Lib Dem is the absence of politics, isn't it? It's like, oh, well, got to just be kind. Ed Davey's got some nice Christmas jumpers. That's it. But I've had enough. No, I've gone there and I'm like, I'm going to bring everyone else. And so you're coming, James, and your gorgeous wife, and I cannot wait. Sharon Davis, she's down the road as well, apparently. Like, whoa, that's 4 of us already. Give us a year.
You make such a great point, by the way, about this, that there are so many, so much of England is still so, and Britain is still so wonderful and so lovely. But it is also the crucial point that in these places, it is easy to believe that all of the problems that I'm sure we're about to now talk about aren't happening, and therefore people can still feel that it's okay to vote for the cuddly Liberal Democrats, and some of them may even have voted for the Labour Party because they don't yet realise the dangers and difficulties and damage that's being caused in London and in other big cities and other parts of this country.
They've got no idea. Do you know what? I don't know if you saw this today in the Daily Mail, 'cause I'm surprised we didn't send it to each other, but the Daily Mail has done, the most desirable places to live in all of the UK and the least desirable, and they've got a description of the top 10, and we're in it! We've got it! Our place is there. I think everyone will figure out what it is. But it is described as, it isn't, well, here goes, known for its stunning architecture and independent shops. And get this, there's also a chance you might bump into one of the town's famous locals. Is that us?
Princess Anne?
Oh, yeah, exactly. In fact, I saw Zara and Mike Tyndall at the King's Station, as it's called, the other day, waiting for a train into London. But yeah, Princess, I think actually you're right. The King himself is probably one of the most famous locals.
I've got to tell you, we were at the railway station somewhere in Gloucestershire once, getting into a taxi somewhere, and Mrs. P was getting into the car, and there was a car waiting to go past, and she goes, hang on, just give me a minute. And then realises that it was Princess Anne driving the car.
I love it. Apparently, she tours around in a battered old Land Rover, like handing old people logs in the winter. I'll warn you, though, it's blimming cold. Yesterday, when I got to the car park, I had to spend 10 minutes with my bank card scraping ice off. Right, Ryan is nagging me, justifiably so, to get on. So let's do it. Did you put yourself through the torture, or perhaps it was entertainment, perhaps it was titillation of watching Question Time last night?
I managed to see all the crucial bits of it, but I do wonder the people that watch that programme regularly.
Shall we just, for comedic value, remind ourselves of our good friend, whatever your name is, Mr. I love the fact, by the way, this is someone to watch out for. She goes, you there in the white shirt, and then knows the entire history of how he came into Britain. I'm like, what, you don't know his name, but you somehow have been briefed? Anyway, let's watch.
The man in the white shirt, now I know you came over on a small boat. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
What's your response to what you're hearing? Because obviously everyone is talking about people like you.
Well, let me say something first. I just want to clear that leaving the convention doesn't just affect the migrants. It would give ordinary people one less court, to protect their rights. even for weekend checks, and the government power risk on peace settlement in Northern Ireland and damage our security cooperation. You think this is
I'll happily answer that question. My parents came here legally. They did not come here illegally. And look, there's a clear dividing line in British politics. If you're watching this at home and you want to vote for a party that will prioritise the interests of foreign nationals who came here illegally, or do you want to vote for a party that are going to prioritise British citizens who work hard, set their alarm clocks in the evening before going to bed, and toil to pay tax money?
That is not the dividing line. That is not the dividing line in British politics right now.
Do you know how much money the British taxpayers
There are other choices available.
Do you know how much money the British taxpayers had to pay for universal credit payments alone for foreign nationals last year? That was £10 billion.
Do you know how much an asylum seeker gets a week?
Hang on, if you're talking no one can hear.
£49 a week. £49 a week. This is what this man wants to take off you.
29, British taxpayers will be spending half the forecast defence budget on universal credit alone for foreign nationals. There's nothing about that that's remotely acceptable. And I'm sorry, we will stick up for British citizens who pay their taxes.
Pay their taxi? What's that? I don't know. Anyway, where do we begin, James? Where do we begin with all this? I suppose let's leave Cruella to one side, but we are going to talk about her. She really gets my goat. But let's talk about our very well-educated, well-versed, particularly when it comes to the Good Friday Agreement and the implications of the Northern Irish Protocol on things like our membership of the ECHR and all of our shared human rights. Oh, brilliant. I mean, blimey. He's been studying hard, hasn't he? Exactly the sort of nuclear scientist, engineer, doctor that we're having come over in droves on those dinghies.
I don't know where to begin with this. Let's get this right for a second. A man admits to breaking into the country illegally, and then sits on national television, on the BBC, on the state broadcaster that we all have to pay for if you want to watch live TV, and reels off a list off his phone, presumably, I mean, I'm going to just guess here, not written by himself, proceeds to lecture everybody at home watching on why still being stuck under a different foreign court is a good thing. Have I taken crazy pills here? I feel like I'm going to become the Joker from Batman.
The best bit, right, when they later on, I don't know if we've got that clip, but I think Fiona Bruce or someone asked him, like, so according to reform, because Iran isn't at war, you might have to go back. How do you feel about it? He's like, well, I've got a daughter now. I've got a kid now. She doesn't speak Farsi. And I'm like, oh, great. So not only have you come over here, lived off the state, you've also made someone get knocked up so you can't be deported. Brilliant. And your daughter can't speak Farsi? Why? Why aren't you teaching her that? That's your native tongue. Next thing, by the time we've lived here for 10 years, you'll be moaning that Farsi isn't taught in the schools in inner London.
It's absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? The idea that this is in any way acceptable. I mean, I was kind of half hoping that there would be Home Office officials, a member of Border Force, waiting until the filming had wrapped to arrest the guy for admitting he'd broken into the country illegally. Why on earth are we letting people stay who've broken into the country illegally? That used to be a rule the Conservatives, by the way, had in place. And if you come into the country illegally, you will never be allowed to stay under any circumstances. One of the first things that Labour got rid of, by the way. The question used to be in the 1970s, and older listeners and viewers will remember this, who governs Britain? And the question I think today is, in whose interest is Britain governed? And I don't always, or often sometimes, agree with Zia Youssef, but he absolutely nailed that answer. He was bang on. The dividing line in British politics is looking like, are you on the side of Alarm Clock Britain, who gets up and goes to work, or on the side of people who break into the country so that they can have children and lecture us about foreign courts? Well, I mean, what a dividing line. I can't wait for the next election.
Oh, but, Cruella said it's not a dividing line at all, didn't she? That woman, I don't know what it is about her. She really rubs me up the wrong... Actually, I do know what it is. The word that I'm looking for, that I'm reaching for, is sanctimonious. Because this is the thing. The Labour Party are absolutely doing my nut at the moment. They're saying, because it's the right thing to do. According to whom? China? Stop telling me that it's the right thing to do when I can tell it's not. Stop gaslighting me. And the Lib Dems are the same. It's like, we're the nice people. Oh, it's not like that. What is it? They keep talking about performative cruelty is their latest little phrase that they use. I mean, the performative cruelty is when the blimmin' Labour Party calls half the population far right, tells them they've got to work harder, dig deeper, to pay for some character who's broken into the country and wants to wage jihad against us.
Right. Performative cruelty is raising taxes to the highest level they've been since the Second World War. Performative cruelty is taking away Britain's ancient right to jury trials. Performative cruelty is making us pay to lose sovereign British territory because an advisory Chinese-backed court said we had to do it. And performative cruelty is forcing us to live on this island of ours that has been ours for 1,500 years as an almost continuous civilization and share it with people who've entered the country illegally and committed the most heinous and despicable crimes that I won't mention at this time of day, and saying that those people can't be deported because it might be mean to them, and therefore the victims have to live with the perpetrators of some of the most evil crimes of all time. That's performative cruelty. That's what the left always does. And I'm sure there are many millions of patriotic, decent people who voted for the Labour Party at the last election because they thought, well, maybe they've changed. Maybe they can't be as bad as the slightly haphazard and chaotic Conservatives. But I hope that no one ever is stupid enough to vote for the Labour Party again. And yet they're still somehow on 14%. I mean, it's a historic low. But nearly 1 in 6 people in the country is still just about thinking of voting for the Labour Party. So do check in on your neighbours and make sure they've not been dropped on their heads too many times as kids.
It's wild, isn't it? But you know, so I actually made a little list. I did a Substack. I haven't done a Substack for ages because I've been working so hard. And I've been working one for a few days, every 5 minutes when I've got a spare moment. And I finally published it this morning. But I've listed all of the most egregious, word of the day, egregious things the Labour Party have done since being in power. And when you put it all together, it either reads like a sort of, you know, guess the country, guess which banana republic tyrannical regime this could be based upon their policies, or it could be these are the offences being waged against a country as an act of terrorism or sabotage. I mean, attack, like if, for instance, very often in wars, people go, right, I'm going to take out all of your fuel supplies. We're going to go bomb your oil rigs. Ha ha, what are you going to do then? Oh, we don't need Russia to do that. Ed Miliband's up to it. Brilliant. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. Anyway, so I digress. Let's talk about this creature. Let's roll Polanski.
Most people in this audience and watching this at home will have had an experience of a care worker. 1 in 5 care workers are foreign nationals. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't particularly want to wipe someone's bum. And I'm very grateful for the people who do this work, this really important work, whether it's in the care sector, whether it's in the NHS.
He's funny. He's a funny one. There's something funny about him, isn't there? He's been artificially created, that man. And so people are like, isn't he charismatic? Isn't he so articulate? I'm like, him? Am I literally seeing someone else this whole time that I don't think he's remotely charismatic, not remotely articulate, and somehow I can't turn on the television without seeing his fizzog and his snaggle teeth?
No, I mean, all of that you say is true. But let's get to the content of what he said as well. He said, oh, I don't want to have to wipe someone's bum. I don't want to have to stoop to looking after the oldest and most vulnerable people in British society. Let's import a near slave class of foreigners to do it for us. And that's meant to be progressive and left-wing and compassionate. And this is absolutely outrageous. The guy is advocating for basically bringing back serfdom and making it cool and lefty and trendy. This is the same as the idiotic woman who in the run-up to the Brexit vote on Question Time again said, but if we get rid of the foreigners, who will make me my latte in the morning? These people hear themselves. They think they're the goodies. And it's absolutely astonishing, Alex, that these people will go and think these things, let alone say them on national television, and that people, again, are considering voting for this guy. The most mental thing he said recently is, when asked how, if he were Prime Minister, as the leader of the Green Party, and they're polling okay, how he would do in foreign politics and how he would deal with the war in Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. He said, well, I'll ask Vladimir Putin to give up his nuclear weapons. I thought, why haven't the rest of us thought of that?
Oh, damn! Why is Donald Trump? You better get on the phone to that Polanski right now, because Lord knows he might not have hypnotised people to growing their boobs any bigger, but he might be able to work his magic on the Kremlin. I mean, for crying crying out loud. Now, let's talk about it. I love this story, by the way. I love it. I can't get enough of it. I saw it on X earlier, and it's now, I think, sort of front page of the Times, or at least at the top of their website, which is the fact that I knew that America was asking diplomats to sort of snitch on Britain. What are they doing? How bad is it? How many people are arrested for social media posts? Are they doing anything about the grooming of these girls? What about the migration policies, etc.? What about preventing populist parties from being able to run? Another thing that's concerning America about the state of Europe. It now transpires that in the 2025 US National Security Strategy, so written this year, to lay out the current administration in America's global priorities, their agendas, their foreign policy targets. What are the things that really need to be tackled in the world? And they do not mince their words. They say, so for instance, economic decline, yeah, we know we've got that, is eclipsed by the real and more stark prospect of civilizational erasure. Now, we can see what Trump is doing in America, and he ain't holding back, is he? He's really going for broke when it comes to borders, remigration, illegals, protecting American culture. He says some pretty choice words about the Somali community, for example. I'm probably saying things that I wouldn't myself necessarily say, but there you go. That's the Donald. What I want to know is, yes, they're collating their information. They're building up a dossier. They know who's on the naughty and nice list. I just want to know what they're going to do about this. I wonder if the next time Sir Keir Starmer finds himself over in Washington, D.C. for the cosy fireside chat, if all of a sudden, very publicly, he gets a dressing down and is being held accountable. I also wonder whether or not Trump could use strategies such as tariffs to say to the UK, if you don't sort this out, we consider this an act of harm against your own people. We don't think you're governing them properly or wisely or in their interests, and therefore we don't want to do business with you, or even bigger, we don't trust you as a security ally. In Five Eyes, we don't want to share intelligence with you. We think your alliances with China are dodgy. I mean, what do you make of this?
It couldn't be more important. The stakes couldn't be higher on some of this stuff. I mean, first of all, you say Trump's language is always so annoying, because whilst occasionally, very often, he's funny, sometimes he says stuff and you just think, why would you say that? You could make the point so much better without letting people go, oh, his language is so bad, because the people he's criticising are so worthy of criticism and do terrible things. You look at what's been happening in the state of Minnesota. The Somalian community there has stolen so much money from the American taxpayer in fraud. It's sending billions of dollars that literally are funding the Islamist terrorist organisation Al-Shabaab out of the pockets of American taxpayers. It's a heinous and evil enough story without him having to be quite so slightly crude about some of it. Nevertheless, his broad point is that you have a lot of people from other countries coming into Western countries and having totally different moral codes that is therefore impossible to police without being very extreme in terms of locking people away and all the rest of it. And we know this very well in Britain from the Pakistani rape gangs and the horrors that we're only now this week coming out of seeing some of these court cases about.
Oh, they're shocking. The transcripts, my gosh. I mean, I put a few on social media because I just said the world. No, in fact, Elon Musk retweeted me. Good old Elon. Reposted. Sorry, Elon. Reposted. Because I had said, you've got to read these transcripts. And, wherever you are in the world, read this and get in contact with your president, your prime minister, the UN, anybody, because they're not doing anything. They haven't done anything for 20 years. They're still not doing anything now. They would rather this stuff be brushed under the carpet. Who cares about the victims? And who cares if it's still going on?
Yeah, exactly right. And what we have fundamentally in the form of Trump, as crude as he may be, and J.D. Vance, as spiky and combative as he may be, is a leadership in the United States that loves the old country. It loves the mother country very dearly. And I think with a bit of distance, you can see all of the things going wrong. And a lot of the things started in America, and that these guys have been elected, in Trump's case, re-elected, to deal with those problems. And so they are, I think, perhaps in some sense, feel culpable for some of the mad wokeness and all the rest of it that came out of America America and spread across the West, the rest of the West. So I think they maybe feel some level of responsibility for it. But we have to do our part as well. And it is just patently obvious that we have let large numbers of people into European countries who not only don't share our values, haven't been taught them, we haven't even tried to integrate them. And therefore they take ideas about women, about gay people, frankly, about all the rest of us as well, about the law, about religion, about society, about business, about honesty, about truth, about beauty, have very different ideas on all those fronts. And the nice thing is that if we started to do just a little bit to integrate them, maybe wonders could happen. If you start to take away the enormously generous welfare benefits that we bestow upon foreign people, some of them might just decide to leave rather than staying here and bleeding us dry. So there is a lot of hope to be done, and I'm fundamentally glad that Donald Trump is trying to push this issue to make us think seriously about what Europe might look like in a few decades' time if we don't arrest these sorts of trends.
I think America's so worried about this. I think they really think this is the 11th hour, and I don't think it's just going to be a case of writing reports and diplomats snitching on what's going on. I really wouldn't underestimate Donald Trump. I think he might act. Let's see. I don't know. I think he might do something.
I think you're right. And also we're seeing the European Union acting in reverse and trying to fine X or Twitter and going after other big American giants because the European Union wants to censor those sorts of organisations.
120 million euros. Elon's like, that's a night out, bro. Like, come on. Forget it. Richest man on earth. $120 million. He ain't going to notice that. James, I've got to let you go, my darling. And, always wonderful to catch up with you. Can't wait until you're my neighbour. Right. OK, we're going to take a short break now. And talk about snitching, US diplomats snitching on us. This next story, I spotted this and I was just like, this is blimmin' harrowing. Because did you know there's going to be a little policy to encourage Brits to snitch on their neighbours? In fact, you might get money. You might get money off your tax bill worth thousands of pounds if you report friends and neighbours for not paying their tax correctly. Blimmin' heck. Is that where we're at right now? Blimmin' weird. We're discussing that after this.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now, this is creepy. Okay, I understand the aims of this, but the methods? Let me read this to you. Brits can now earn thousands of pounds for reporting friends, neighbours or companies or anyone else they suspect of committing serious tax fraud. Now, this scheme was in the autumn budget in the small print, and it's already taken immediate effect. This is because the Treasury has estimated that tax fraud costs us £47 billion a year. That ain't any good. I agree. We've got to do something about that. But this is where it starts getting weird. So people who give HMRC useful information about high-value tax evasion could then receive a reward that is a percentage of the tax recovered. But you have to enable HMRC to recover more than £1.5 million. And there's a law firm that says it's already been contacted by several people asking how the scheme works. HMRC says cases involving more than £1.5 million usually relate to wealthy individuals, large companies or offshore tax arrangements. Let's speak now to Andrew Allison, Head of Campaigns at Popular Conservatism. Now, I agree, Andrew, right? If people aren't paying their taxes, if they're fiddling the system, if it's costing us £47 billion a year, then yes, something ought to be done about it. I'm not sure I like the idea of inducing people into snitching by offering them a financial reward, because you kind of think it's the thin end of a wedge. Where does this begin? Where does it end? Could this be used maliciously? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Good evening, Alex. Well, it is a snitcher's charter, isn't it? And we had to put up with this during COVID as well, if you remember. We were all encouraged to snitch on our neighbours and family and friends if we thought that they were breaking the COVID rules. But how on earth is this going to work? I mean, how are you possibly going to know that someone is evading more than £1.5 million worth of tax? That's what I can't quite work out. I mean, are we just going to get people who are just going to report companies just for the sake of reporting companies and the hope that they're going to get lucky? I just can't see how this can work.
Well, exactly. This is the problem. You could then end up with people setting up little schemes to try and report people, companies going after other companies quite deliberately to try and sully their reputation. It's the basic idea of asking members of the public to dob on each other. Look, if people are so motivated, if they knew, for example, right, say if I knew of a company and for whatever reason I knew full well this company was filing tax returns saying, oh, we didn't make a profit this year, when they were actually, you know, fiddling money, offshore bank account, making loads of pounds, driving around in Lambos and Rolls and all the rest of it, then it might be that I'm pretty sure they're doing something a bit funny here. And if I was really exercised, I could phone the police, I could phone HMRC myself, right? But it's this idea of, please look at everybody, investigate it, we'll pay you. That's when it enters into a zone that I'm like, oh no, That is when it's going too far. That is how the blimmin' Stasi operated in Nazi Germany. That is right at the heart of communism. You know, always eyes on everybody else. You know, big brother's watching, walls have ears, all the rest of it. It makes me chilled to the bone because while the motivation looks good because it's the right thing to do, No, it's not okay to tell a population, be wary of your neighbours, be wary of your customers, because they are going to police you. That makes us a police state.
Well, it does, doesn't it? I mean, there's no other way of describing it, and I just can't work out, who would want to do that. I mean, for a few grand, just to report a friend, a neighbour, someone who you know. I personally wouldn't do it unless I felt that someone was on some sort of major fiddle and perhaps it was involving illegal activity, Alex. If it was involving drugs.
To be fair, it ain't a few grand. If they're saying don't tell us about it unless it's something over 1.5 million, and then you may get...
but how much is the reward going to be? How much is the reward?
Between 15 and 30% of the tax recovered. So let's say someone owed about 1.5 million in tax, a big company or something, and there are some people wealthy enough that they could well owe that much money quite easily, actually. Then you're talking about, I don't know, up to £450,000.
Yeah, I'd say, and that is a lot of money. I agree, but although it would be very tempting, I suppose. I don't know whether I could quite live with myself if I was behaving like that, because I just think it's just very un-British. It's not the way that we do things. And you're quite right to mention the Stasi. I mean, I've known people who used to live in the former communist East Germany, and you may recall that people were allowed to access their Stasi files after the fall of communism. And I know many people who refused to do that because they didn't want to know who'd been basically dobbing them in, because they might still be friends with them, and it could even be a very close family member, a parent or a brother or a sister. I just don't think we really want to get into this area. By all means, HMRC, go ahead and investigate people who you think may be guilty of tax evasion, but just don't rely on members of the public.
This is the thing. If we're all decent citizens, if we think someone is doing something that is criminal, because that level of tax evasion is criminal, and someone's doing something really wrong, then you have the ability to phone the police or report it anyway. It is the setting of the tone here that I just think is, to use my favourite word, egregious. Andrew, thank you ever so much for joining us. Andrew Allison, Head of Campaigns for Popular Conservatism. Do you know what? I'm getting used to something now in my little life, since I've been sitting here on the throne of Drive for quite a while. I'm rather getting used to the company of John Lucas. He's going to be joining us just after the break. And you know who he is. And you know what I'm going to sing. It's after the break.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You know what it's time for? Night news. Dun, dun. I need to come up with a second line. I haven't thought about that yet. I can't just do I've got to rhyme with night news and da 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 da.
Yeah, or a backing track or.
Well, that's going to be your responsibility.
Okay.
The more we do this together, you've got to come in some sort of, Gregory Isaacs dreadlocks wig and sort of,
Beatboxing. Oh, I think that could be a terrible
string vest. I don't know if Gregory Isaacs ever wore a string vest. Hopefully not. Right, anyway, let's hit up the headlines. So it's still underway now, right? The Football World Cup Ujima flickery thing.
The draw, yes.
The draw.
Well, it's gone. It's we will be splashing on this. I'm certain when we actually find out.
That's a good sort of newspaper jargon. It's splashing.
Splashing on it.
It's gonna splash.
It'll be the front page. We're going to find out who will be playing in the group stages, and it's. I'm sure lots of people have had it on. Obviously, they won't have been. Their full attention won't have been on it because they've been listening to you or watching you. Yeah. But they might be aware of it, and it's been going on for a very, very, very long time.
So what's been going on? Because I'm looking at this here, and there's all sorts of sort of semi-washed-up has-been celebrities doing things. I saw Trump giving an interview to our colleagues at talkSPORT about something or the other.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason it's going on for a long time is to explain the rules, because we now have 48 teams in this World Cup, and they're all sorts of, I think we've got Cape Verde, we've got Qatar, lots of minnows of world football, and
got Qatar, a Qatari football team.
Yeah, and therefore you've got 10 groups. We've just been drawn, so England have just been drawn in Group L. We were the first team to be drawn in there, so we don't know who we're going to be playing yet. But that does mean, I believe I'm right, our first game's going to be in Toronto. So this World Cup, if you're not sure, it's in the USA, Mexico, and Canada. So we'll be playing the first game in Toronto. We'll find out over the weekend. I think we'll find out where we're going to be.
Is that certainly going on all over the weekend? They're still going for it.
Yeah, it's a very, very long. Well, we've had, as you say, we've had Robbie Williams was singing the FIFA anthem with Nicole Scherzinger. It's called Desire. Not many people were very keen on that in the newsroom, but I'm sure it's a very nice song. And
really, I sometimes love how deadpan you are. With Ryan in one ear and you there, it's like, it's sort of really deadpan thing inside my head.
Exactly, and we had Trump up on stage, and they've created this, well, I won't be too cynical about it. He was awarded FIFA's very first FIFA World Peace Prize, which has never been... they've never had one until now. Weirdly, when it's in the US,
it's like, Donald, you didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, but here you go. The football's going to invent something for you.
And it looks weirdly like the World Cup trophy, and he also got a medal and put a medal on.
Do you think he asked for it himself? Do you think he said, "I need a prize"?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's in Trump's America. It's all a bit weird, and that's fine. We're used to that now.
I love it.
But we'll find out by the time you pick up tomorrow's paper. Obviously, we're going to know exactly who we're playing, and we're going to have tons of news and analysis.
So what would be our dream draw in the group? Ryan was sort of saying all sorts of funny countries in my... Uzbekistan was one. Curacao. Is it Curacao? Curacao? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you want...
That very blue alcoholic drink.
Yeah, you want a group that you can sort of go through. I mean, you still want it to be entertaining. But this is a weird World Cup where the top 4 seeds have this special status. So England, France, Spain, Argentina, they will not be able to meet each other in the contest. Well, Spain, this is why it gets complicated. Spain and Argentina can't play each other till the final. France and England can't play each other till the final. We could meet Spain or Argentina in the semi-finals and vice versa.
Why?
But here's the catch.
Oh, look, Group B, Canada and Switzerland.
But only if we all win our groups. If we don't win our groups, but we still go through, it gets even more messy. And yeah, I think it's going to go on for quite a while tonight.
Yeah, I probably won't be watching, but I'll read all about it tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about story number 2. A Ukrainian warrior has become the first woman to graduate from the Royal Naval College.
Yeah, well, our reporters have spent lots and lots of time in Ukraine over the last few years since this all started. At the moment, our special correspondent Paul Sims is over there, and he's been speaking with Oksana Pechuniuk, she's a 20-year-old naval officer, and she is actually the first woman from Ukraine to graduate from our Royal Naval College, which is where famously Prince Philip was trained and graduated from. And we've got a chat with her, and it's a story that really just shows what this Ukraine war is all about and what the Ukrainian people are doing. So she's a 20-year-old. She doesn't have to do it. She signed up to fight. Her dad is a colonel. Both of her brothers are also in the services. So it just shows how the whole nation, families, are all fighting back against this Russian invasion. And she's very brave. And she says she had to work harder than a lot of people to show that she's brave, strong, powerful. As my country's fight against Russia, she said there's a lot of pressure on her to get through this course. Obviously, not many women do it. And she says it's my calling. Nothing's going to stop me. We've got to. Your body has limits, but your mind doesn't. So it's a very grueling course where you learn navigation, leadership, and you have a 3-week deployment on a Royal Navy ship. So she's very proud, and it's a good story.
Good on her. Oh, apparently Croatia's in our group for the World Cup. But don't look there, that's Ryan. He's like, I tell you, this man is weird. I think he's like a Borg. Like, it's odd. He knows too much. Yeah, don't say you just watched it. You've got like some sort of satellite connected to the inner workings of your skull. I don't trust you. There's something very off about you. Right. Now, let's talk about, I love this story, potholes. That always gets the kids going. A pothole so deep, Britain's worst pothole. I like this. I'd like to find someone else beat this. So deep that a man stood in it and it came up to his waist.
Yeah, well, we're heading into pothole season, aren't we, where it starts to rain.
Haven't we been in pothole season for 5 years?
We've been in pothole season for about 40 years, as this story shows, because that's how long this pothole has been there in Ferry Road in County Tyrone. It's part of the reason is because it's a boggy area, so they come and fill the pothole in, and unfortunately,
it just sinks
deeper down, it will eventually sink. But this one got so big that the local councillor, Malachi Quinn, did a sort of publicity stunt, and he got into this pothole and he stood there up to his waist. And you probably would have seen this picture. It went viral. Everyone thought it was hilarious.
Most importantly, did Rod Stewart see it? Because you need to get Big Rod on it. Big Rod loves filling a pothole.
Oh yeah, he does.
He does, doesn't he? Exactly. It's like, someone needs to at him.
Yeah.
At Rod. Check this out, son.
Yeah, I think is he in North Essex? Is he in my part of the world, or is he? I don't know where he's based, but yeah, we could do with him actually, where we are. And it does get worse this time of year because you get the rain comes down, it gets cold, and then
freezes,
everything
expands.
gets. Yeah. I did 2 tyres last year in the same same week. Yeah.
God.
Nightmare. Anyway, but the national government in the end took it out of the council's hands, came along and fixed this road, and it's a 500-metre stretch, and it's cost £160,000.
Not for the one, no, for the whole road.
So yeah, but because they had to resurface the whole road,
whole thing,
to sort this pothole out. But fair play, it's been there for 40 years, so that's actually that cost is.
If they'd done it 40 years ago, it probably cost £2.50.
Yeah, there you go.
What with inflation now? Look, this is what happens when you put things off.
Yeah.
Right, another one's banning Christmas jumpers. This time it's Screwfix. Why?
Yeah, well, I feel like this is going to become a bit of a theme at Christmas.
Why is everyone banning Christmas this year? What is wrong?
Exactly. So yesterday we had HSBC saying to its staff, don't wear Christmas jumpers because you might trigger grumpy, upset people who are coming into the branch.
I could sort of get on board with the idea that in a bank they go, look, we're a bank, people's finances are very important, the economy, don't come in with your sort of, Rudolph jumper on with the, press his nose and the eyes light up, or, come on, it's a bit crass.
Yeah.
You work in a bank. That I get. Screwfix, for crying out loud. People are coming into Screwfix to buy their fake Christmas trees and do a bit of Christmas time DIY, fall off that ladder, end up in A&E. It's like part of our social fabric.
Yeah, many of our readers will be going in there, and yeah, they've been told you can have your decorations in your staff room, in the staff area, but no tinsel, no little trees out in the front, and there's not really much of a reason behind it. Screwfix say we are still getting in the Christmas spirit. As they say, the staff can put stuff up in their own areas, and we raise money for the Screwfix Foundation at Christmas, etc., etc.
Is Screwfix the one that's a bit like DIY Argos?
Yeah, that's a good
Or
way.
is that Tool Station or one of them? One of them you go and you just go, I want this thing, and then some sort of goblins out of sight come and deliver you your package, a bit like Argos.
It is something like that. Yeah.
Argos is a fascinating place. I love a bit of Argos because when you look at how much stuff is in the Argos catalogue, then you look at the building. I'm like, does this thing go like 3 kilometres underground?
They must do.
They must do.
Yeah.
I actually want to go into the sort of behind the scenes of Argos and see how it all works. Because when you see Amazon depots, they're freaking massive, right? They're huge girt things. There's one in Rugeley, or Rugeley, I don't know how you say it, in the West Mids. Is it West Mids? Mids? Someone's going to message me upset about mispronouncing and mislocating. But I think it's there anyway. But Argos is actually quite, you know, they're just on your high street like that, and then the catalogue's got everything under the sun. And I'm like,
Where does
Mary
it all come
Poppins
from?
handbag.
Yeah, it must go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, they must do, yeah.
I'd heard Argos were in a bit of trouble these days because everyone's just buying stuff online. And I'm like, no, don't let Argos go. It's like the coolest idea for a shop. I think it's brilliant. Huge fan of Argos. Argos, Wetherspoons, these are national
Yeah, well, let's
heroes.
hope that they keep the Christmas spirit up at Argos.
Oh, don't you worry about that. I've been down the Argos in my town and everyone's got their Christmas jumpers on from Argos from October. They couldn't wait for Christmas down Argos. That's why it's joyful. It's Britain all over. John, thank you ever so much. And I'm back next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So hopefully we'll see each other then.
Cool, yep, will do.
The dreadlock hat, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right, I'll buy you a drink if you do.
Okay, yeah, that
there
could
you go, I
convince
knew you'd
me,
be
yeah.
sold on that.
Yeah.
Done. Right, we're going to take a short break now, but when I come back, I'm going to read some of your messages, take some of your calls, and let's see if Kevin O'Sullivan can manifest in time for a handover. That's after this.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up, and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Let's hit up the phone lines. This is Molly in Derbyshire. Hi, Moles.
Oh, hi, Alex.
Hi.
I'm going to shamelessly brown nose you for a second, because you're just my favourite ever. So thank you for speaking to me.
Oh, come on now. I'd love it if you were here in person. We're opening a bottle of vino together, but you're all the way in Derbyshire, love.
Well, I missed you at dinner time. I normally have my lunch listening to you, and I was gutted, but then you were on this evening, so I managed to drive home to you.
Yeah, there you go. And I'm going to be able to join you on your drive as well, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday next week. Don't you forget it. I'm here for you.
Oh, I've got you every Friday. Love you. Yeah, anyway, that's enough brown nosing from me.
Oh, love it.
I just want to say, I'm an NHS clinician, but over the past few weeks, something different started to happen about the asylum seekers. So I've had a few over the recent weeks. They come over on boats, and you know that from all the records, but the two that I've had were both fluent in French, and we've actually had to pay for French interpreters. Yet the line we're always hearing is that people that come over here from France, a safe country, is because they speak English and not French, and that's why they come here.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think we both know why that is, don't we? Because when you look at where the asylum seekers are in France, that's right, they've had to make a tent out of like cardboard boxes and bin bags in the sand dunes of Calais. But they know if they come here that they're going to get the hotel, the smartphone, the balloon making lessons, whatever it is they're teaching these people. I mean, why wouldn't you?
It just doesn't match the narrative, though, does it? You know, because that the one thing that the leftists keep saying when we always say, well, why would they leave a safe country like France? Well, it's because they've got family. Oh, they can. It's the language. They speak English. Well, no, they speak fluent French. So
interesting.
Actually,
do you know where they're from? Like originally?
Well, now I've looked into this. So there are some it's got a strange Afro something names where they actually speak French.
There's a number of them. I said it was about half of Africa. That could be. That could be Mali, Burkina Faso, Togo, Benin, Côte d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, Senegal, Cameroon, Niger.
So aren't we fed up over hearing the leftists say it? Well, they come over here because of the English. And the interesting thing is when you go into the medical records, obviously I'm not giving any names, obviously, but it's an unknown where they're from, unknown. And the birthdays are always the first of the first.
Isn't that funny that everyone was knocking each other up on the, to, when would that be, like March time or something, ready to have their babies at the very first day of the year. I mean, it's just, it's trolling us, isn't it, when people put that as their birthday. It's like, oh, for God's sakes, you're clearly lying. Moles, thanks for calling. And I like getting a little bit of intel from the ground. That's really interesting. Of course I hear. Even the mayor of Calais themselves said, dear UK, you do realise you're an El Dorado for illegals. So if you don't do something about that, don't be surprised when they're all collecting in Calais to try and come over. You've got to stop making yourself so appealing to people. It's a bit like, do you want to break in? Oh, if you break in, I'll lay out the fine china. Bit of caviar on the table. Knock yourself out with the best bottle of port. Oh, look away for 5 minutes. I mean, for crying out loud. Right, let's speak to Mark, who's in Lincolnshire. Hi, Mark. Hi, Mark, love. You there? Aye, we can't speak to Mark, who's in Lincolnshire, but don't you worry, because I have stored up in my little pot here some messages, and possibly. Oh no, hold on, Mark in Lincolnshire's gone green. Does that mean he's in existence, Mark?
Hello, Alex.
Yay, we got you. How are you?
All right. Yeah, not so bad. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right. About to finish work, the start of the weekend. Whoop, whoop. Final race of the Formula One. Can't wait.
Action-packed weekend, eh?
Yes.
What I want to talk about, obviously, the Zia Yusuf thing on Question Time.
Yeah.
I was actually quite disappointed with Zia on that, actually. Right. I mean, I'm not particularly a big fan of him anyway, but there you go.
Why did he disappoint you?
Well, because I don't think he pushed back in the way that he should have done with that. I mean, a couple of things that he should have done. I mean, the guy that starts speaking and he's talking about all this stuff, he should have basically flipped it all back onto him instantly and just basically say, can I ask you, as you're an illegal migrant, you've broken into our country, can I ask you what it is that you think that you have the right to travel halfway across the world through multiple safe countries to come to the UK? Why is it you decided you had to be in the UK? Please tell us that. And do you also think that it is fair that the British taxpayer has to continue to pay for people like yourself?
Well, I agree. I would love it. I mean, look, in defence of Zia, I'd imagine if he'd even tried to do that, Fiona Bruce would have shut him down, I'd imagine. But did you know there's a beautiful expression called, I think it's called the spirit of the elevator. And the spirit of the elevator is when you leave that meeting or the interview or whatever it is, or the breakup, and you're on your way off and you're in the elevator, you think, oh, I should have said that instead. I wish I'd put it in those words. It's a great term. So maybe Zia's been haunted by said spirit of the elevator. I don't know. I'll ask him. Mark, thank you ever so much. I'm going to have to love you and leave you, and welcome into the studio, Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan. All right, my love.
That Question Time last night was extraordinary. I know that place where it was, actually. When
you grew up in Dover, didn't you?
For part of my checkered youth, I lived in Dover, and I used to play five-a-side when I was about 9 years old in that hall, so it was very nostalgic for me.
Oh.
Good to see the stupidest man in Parliament, the local MP for Labour, Mike Tapp, on the panel as well.
Mike Tapp, who's made this big deal on social media. Well, do you know, it's nice to be polite. And I've literally, quote tweeted it going, oh, yeah, polite, like when David Lammy called the leader of the free world a sort of sociopathic neo-Nazi. The Prime Minister